Beep. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Adcast, a podcast for the study of modern visual culture. I am your half-demon princess, Renu.
And I'm your trapped in the Demon King's castle, but really just wants to nap, princess, Soup.
This week, AD stands for Absolute Territory because we'll be covering the fall 2020 season. We have a lot to cover. It's a huge episode. So, strap in.
Yep.
Brace yourselves.
Brace yourselves. I think in our good favor, most of these are pretty. We can just kind of pass over them.
Yeah,
I'm glad we don't have to talk in depth about every single one, but yeah,
yes,
there's quite a lot
sure.
this week. So
yeah, I mean, there was a lot of anime that came out this season because summer was so light.
Yeah.
So we had a lot to go through.
Right.
Yeah. So before we get into talking about all of that, let's talk maybe briefly about what we've been up to.
Sure.
Yeah. You've been up to a lot.
Yeah, as you know, I have been playing quite a bit of Yakuza. I've played through Yakuza Kiwami, and it's funny because so I stream quite late, right? I stream from about 12 a.m. to about 5-ish a.m. in PST, which is like my time.
Yeah.
But recently I've had a couple of days where I've spilled over into a little bit later in the morning even, to the point where sometimes Renu will wake up and come into the stream and be like, "Good morning." And I'm like, "Hi, Renu. I know I'm up too late because you're up suddenly." I think it's very funny when the kind of like morning rush of people comes in. But yeah.
I do think it's funny too. Yeah.
I've been playing through Yakuza Kiwami. Unfortunately, whenever you come in, it's always when I'm doing like side content and never when I'm doing like main stuff. I mean, not that you haven't
fine.
Not that you haven't like seen the
right,
main story,
exactly.
obviously. But yeah, it's been a great time. I spent about 36-ish hours in it. I think like 8 to 10 of which was like side content. I was not intending to finish the dragon skill tree. I was just gonna grab the like more useful abilities and then go, but because my friend was so like normally this doesn't necessarily show up as often when I'm streaming well into the morning because I'm usually by myself at that point. But I like to stream with a couple of people to kind of just bounce off of, to experience it with me. I mean, they're mostly the reason I'm streaming in the first place, just to be like, hey, this is like a... Because we originally started streaming because they were like, we want to watch you play Dark Souls. And I'm like, that sounds like a fun time. So I'll like stream with a Twitch and we can have like VODs, right?
Yeah.
But after we finished Dark Souls, I was like, well, I'm not gonna like buy the next 2 Dark Souls games right now because like they're very expensive, right? But the Yakuza games were on sale, so I just picked them all up and I played through Yakuza Kiwami, and that was a really great time. But because my friend wasn't there for a considerable chunk of time, I ended up maxing out the like dragon skill tree, which takes quite a long time.
Bro, that's impressive.
You have to do like a lot of the side content, like you have to engage with like the pocket racing and the mess king, which is like fucking wild. I legitimately had no idea what I was doing. I'm just glad that I could buy my way to victory, which is interesting. But yeah, I played through all of Yakuza Kiwami. And I finished it. I learned the tiger drop, and as soon as I learned how to tiger drop people, it was just over. That move is so strong.
I remember the last time I watched it, you had just learned it, and so you hadn't quite figured out how to implement it yet.
Yeah. I was trying to figure it out. But once I got it, like everything before me just like crumbled. It was like, crumble before the might of the tiger drop. You're attacking? No, I'm attacking.
I'm always attacking.
Every Majima encounter after that became a lot more manageable, even without the use of like items and weapons. Which is except for Thug Majima, which is like the blue aura he has, the attacks are so unpredictable. I can never get the timing right on that. But yeah, it's funny. I had a huge stockpile of items and weapons left at the end of the game because I didn't know how much game there was left. And then like suddenly I was fighting Nishikiyama and I was like, oh shit. I think this is the final fight. Oh god, I have all my I'll just shoot him with a bunch of guns. I'm shooting him with guns. Oh god, I have this. What should I finish him with? Oh god, this does so much damage. So it was amusing. I did definitely tiger drop him at least once because you gotta, right?
You have to, yeah.
You have to tiger drop the bosses. Weirdly, I thought it's interesting. There weren't as many boss fights as I thought there would be. Like, aside from the fact that you have to fight Majima like 8 times,
right?
There's like you fight like the Shimano family head twice. The first time being the worst fight in the entire game. Holy crap!
Yeah, I hated that fight.
That fight is not okay. I really wish I'd known that it was coming going into it. I would have spent some more time like grinding up points or whatever.
Right.
But after that, everything was way more fun. And I had a good time with the game. Game. It was very fun. I think the next one I'm gonna do Yakuza 0 next. I think.
You're kind of streaming it in the same order that I did, coincidentally.
Okay,
I streamed
right.
Kiwami 1 first, and then I streamed Yakuza 0, and then 2, and then, that's where I'm at.
Nice. Yeah, because there's nothing else after that. I think,
right.
After that, I might try to just, I might just, like, watch, like, recap videos of what happens in the Yakuza games, because there's no way I'm gonna buy, like, a PS4, like, a PS3, 4, 5 to, like, play Yakuza games. As much as I'm enamored with the Yakuza games, that is just too much.
Oh right, they don't have a PC version of 3, 4, and 5.
Right, and those are just gonna take forever to come out. Like I don't expect to really see them in any kind of reasonable time frame. If they're out in like 5 years, that'll be a miracle, right? But there is the new game that just came out, which
7.
Yeah,
or the 6 and 7.
Which is funny because it's a turn-based strategy.
Yeah.
Like it's like a 4-party RPG.
It's kind of crazy. Every trailer that I've seen of it, it just gets more wild.
Yeah. But that looked very interesting, and
yeah.
I mean, I want to know more. I'm kind of sad that the other games aren't on PC because I would love to play through all of them.
Oh yeah, for sure.
But that's just quite a stark investment. So I'll just not, I suppose. I don't know. Unless someone is selling I don't know what platform 3 is on. But yeah, like I mean if I could get like a PS3 or PS4 for like really, really cheap, then maybe, but like otherwise I don't think so. Like even with the new console generation coming out, it's not like
it doesn't seem reasonable. Yeah,
it's just too much of an investment. And then like if I wanted to stream it, I would have to go through the trouble of like getting a capture card.
Yeah,
it's just a lot of work and investment. So anyway, Yakuza 0 is gonna come next. I think because I mean it just has to, right? Like it's like Yakuza happens and it's like the first game in the series and you kind of get all the stuff. And then like if you didn't play Yakuza 0 first, I think you should play it after that, right? Like in terms of having everything kind of fresh in your mind.
Oh yeah, for sure. And the story continues. Like they try to link it up as best they can, even though it's a huge jump. I think they could have probably bridged a little bit better between Kiwami 1 and Yakuza 0, but
yeah, I mean,
yeah.
Yakuza 0 happens, and then like 7 years passes, and then Yakuza starts, and then like Yakuza starts, and then 10 minutes later you're in 2005. So like,
no, definitely, it's definitely. There's some huge jumps that I'm like not super okay with because like in 0, you're buddies with Nishiki, and then that changes a lot in 1 by the time the game actually starts.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
yeah.
It almost in a way is kind of like built to be played with 0 first, which makes sense with how how they designed it. But like I don't know. I'd already watched somebody play Yakuza 0. I didn't necessarily want to play through it myself until I had finished Yakuza, right?
Right.
So, but yeah, I'm totally okay going back and playing through Yakuza 0.
Yeah. It's definitely worth.
Yeah, especially if nothing else than to like get my friends to like watch through Yakuza 0 because it's fucking wild.
It is probably a super wonderful time that they definitely need to experience, and I am all on board for that.
Yeah.
So tell me about what's been happening with Mr. Bark over there.
Yeah. So basically, I think my dad just went and like chewed out the owner of Bark because he kept coming to our house even though we weren't really feeding him. And so I don't know. I guess we worked something out. Anyway, he's allowed to come inside the house again. And
wait. There's a lot that you just skipped over.
Wait, what was the update last time I gave you? Wasn't it
last time? Okay, well, last time I don't know about on the podcast, but last time you told me that you couldn't let him in anymore, and you were heartbroken.
Oh yeah. So basically we couldn't let him in or feed him because he basically needed to remember like where his actual human owner lives and like, where his home is, right? So basically we did that for a while, and he kept coming by and just like sleeping outside, even though we weren't feeding him.
No!
And eventually, and like he looked really like hungry too, so like my dad just like went and made sure that like he was being taken care of. And I guess they're like feeding him and stuff now. Or whatever. I don't actually know what the case is necessarily, but whatever it is, like we've kind of worked it out, and he's now allowed inside the house, I guess, when he wants to come inside. Like he just like now the fact that it's like he knows like where he's supposed to eat food, right? Like he can kind of come and go as he pleases. Because we're not necessarily we're not necessarily opposed to having him in the house for the most part. Right?
Yeah.
As long as he stays in like my room or my sister's room, because my dad is still very allergic to cats. And he's just been barely getting by in the past couple like months.
Really?
Yeah. But yeah, I guess that's where we're at now. We're all friends now, I guess.
Oh,
I guess we're just
that's
like kind
really
of
good. Yeah.
Weird time sharing a cat. I don't know.
I mean, the cat decides where he wants to be, and clearly after being neglected for like a month by its original owner, it's like, well, what else am I gonna do? I'm gonna find new people who will feed me or fend for myself,
Right. Yeah, he still sleeps outside our house like in the middle of the day, and in the mornings sometimes he'll like it's funny actually, the last couple of days I've been waking up and he's been just like in my bed, and it's because my mom just like will in the morning chuck the door open and like chuck the cat in.
What?
Yeah, well, because he wants to come inside my room, I guess, because it's always warm in my room, so whatever. But yeah, I've woken up the past couple days and there's just been a cat in my bed. I'm like, hello, good morning, Bark.
Oh, Bark.
Yeah, but that's all been kind of nice. It has been a how do I say this? It has been quite the turbulent week for various reasons. The foremost of which is that the United States presidential election has come to a close, and is kind of right. Like there's still some it's kind of like it's like when you're watching an anime and you'd like defeat like the final boss or whatever, but there's clearly some stuff left over. Like you're not sure if you know what it's like. It's like when when Kiryu defeats the Shimano boss and like is this like, huh, I did it, and then he like turns his back and he just looks at a grenade and goes, "Will yeet." right? We're waiting for that grenade moment where like just one last thing kind of wrenches into thing, which isn't
Yeah.
obviously to say that our current president elect does not come with his whole own host of issues, or that this is necessarily like the greatest victory that we could have. It's not, but right, like
Yeah.
it is a very important step in making sure that the other things that we want to do as a collective society that should by all rights care for each other, we need to be at step one, right? And we haven't
Yeah.
been.
Right, exactly.
And so this is getting us closer to that point. And
Yeah, I
you know.
I 100% agree that we would hope at least that this is a wake up call to people about the importance of voting first of all, and then second of all is the importance of being involved in how your community is evolving and changing, and not just kind of being content with letting it fall to the wayside.
Right.
You have to
And
be aware of these things.
It's interesting because it was kind of a similar feeling in 2008 when Obama was elected, but I think there are some key differences to when that happened. 2008, I obviously was not eligible to vote, so it was kind of like, it's funny because the situation actually in terms of elections doesn't really change if you live in my part of California, because it's like, before 18 you just kind of watch with bated breath as California goes blue, and then you just watch the rest of the country with anxiety for the rest of the week, and then you get to the voting age and you vote a little bit and you realize it's the same. it's at least in my part of the state, it's exactly the same. You just like, well, I mean, I'm gonna go for it, and then you send them off, and it's just like, well, I mean, I don't know what I expected. The more important thing really is, of course, I think that in terms of political action, at least for a growing generation of voting aged people, they have learned the importance of both
Yes.
like getting other people to vote, obviously,
Yep.
but also being meaningfully educated on what exactly each proposition is intending to do, and who it's written by, and who its main supporters are, and also kind of on the ground efforts to both get people to vote and get people to the polls, and really get around kind of the long history of voter disenfranchisement in our country, as well as just the fact that the lower level of right, if you consider the presidency the top level, the lower level of the kind of democratic governorship has been leaning a lot more progressive lately. Obviously you have Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez kind of winning her seat back, and Ilhan Omar, and some other folks that I can't remember off the top of my head because I don't live in those places. But obviously every single one of those is a victory for people who want to push for progressive policy, and I think that is something you've seen a lot more of in the past 4 years, whereas in 2008 it was very much like, please Obama, save us from this terrible America that we've created. Right, it's very much the energy has changed to I guess so, right, I guess we'll go for Joe. And also like our efforts really realistically are for all of the change that we can enact as a society.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
It feels like people are finally learning the power of their vote. And I was reading a Times article this morning that was talking about the voter turnout and stuff like that, and apparently we haven't had a voter turnout this huge since the time that Andrew Jackson was elected in the 1800s.
Yeah, and like, God, Andrew Jackson. I think the thing about Andrew Jackson is Andrew Jackson was a terrible, awful, racist psychopath in a time when everybody was terrible, racist, awful psychopaths, and it was like impressively so, right? I mean, you have to be quite the special kind of dick to be on the level of Andrew Jackson.
Mm.
But yeah, it's the voter turnout in terms of just like sheer numbers and the ratio of people has been, magnificent and also somewhat terrifying, right? Because like it shows you, one, how many people had to go through like so many different hurdles just to get their votes counted, which is, terrible and awful. And two, like it reminds you that there are 70 million people in this country that are completely okay to the point of doing it for the sake of a racist demagogue that wants to inflict as much pain upon people that he doesn't like as humanly possible, right? Like, even if you aren't somebody who is like actively doing it, even if you're not actively whipping children, right? Like, you are sitting by and watching as somebody does it, and you're like, yeah, that's cool, right? It's like it's one of those things, right, about like partisan politics where it is a great failure of our news media that they have to pretend to be impartial, because impartiality, I think, is something that they don't really understand, I guess, right? Like, you can't be impartial between like the party that wants to give people healthcare and the party that wants to put children in cages and separate them from their families. There's no middle ground there. You can't just say, well, I think both sides have a point, maybe we should only put some kids in cages, which is like, no, that's not how that works at all, right? So a lot of work to do, but like, you take the small victories, really.
Yeah, it's a step, and I think that's how everyone is kind of treating it now. I hope
it is a step, and it shows you both the absolute tenacity of the voter base to thankfully, against all odds, reject a fascist demagogue in favor of the other bad things about the United States and its kind of imperial war machine. But like like I said, baby steps, right?
I liked the tweet that you had reposted about I forget the exact wording, but it was basically like the general sentiment of everything getting better after Biden gets elected, but then the image below it is Parasite. It's from the movie Parasite. Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's the total mood. Everybody at this point is very quite well aware that like returning to normalcy, quote unquote, is like kind of a one has to wonder, right? Whether that was ever really good for anybody at all. I mean, obviously,
right?
Like,
exactly.
Some people are gonna be like that. Many Democrats, especially establishment Democrats, will be like that, and you kind of have to just be like,
I really hope
you caused this, right? Like, you did this
exactly. Yeah, no, I'm fearful because I feel like a lot of Americans now, because they had this election, will feel like, okay, I did my part, yay,
Right,
I did
we're
it,
done.
everything's
Like,
gonna
we're
be
not.
fine now. And that's not even remotely true. And if you haven't seen Parasite, you should, because that's how things are. Like, that is our normal, and we have to figure out how we're going to make things better than our normal right now.
Right. I mean, it's funny because like it's like you at a certain point you just realize that like the Democrats are a far right party in any other country in the world, and that like whenever we kind of quibble about reaching across the aisle, and we're like, oh, like you should treat everybody with respect and empathy. It's like, I mean, okay, yeah, right, on a personal level, sure, but like I'm not gonna shed any tears over people who are actively wishing that I was dead. That's not, you don't get to do that, right? That's like, we don't have to do that, and we're under no moral obligation whatsoever to do that, right? It's like, yeah, I mean, ultimately the thing is, right, that like you just hope that this has been an important lesson, and you just hope for the best, and you do what you can. For once, we looked down at the abyss, deep into the abyss, and we said, not today. We only took one step back, but we said, not today.
We did take one step back.
Someday, but not today, right? Like, it's
Yeah.
Anyway, that's the election, I suppose. I mean, it is obviously the most important thing that has happened this week in the world, arguably, because the
I mean, the
United
world was
States has,
definitely watching
well, yeah, 'cause
for
the United States
entertainment
has
or otherwise.
so much influence on the affairs of every other country in the world that it's hard to, right? It's like when you see somebody and they're like, and this is like, I guess this is a very American metaphor, right? But like if you saw someone holding a gun, you'd be like, well, shit, I guess I kind of want to steer clear, but I think I might not have a choice. and you just kind of hope that they're only like secretly racist instead of like a belligerent drunk racist that is just like, right?
Yeah.
Anyway,
Yeah.
to celebrate the kind of slight backpedal we did from American fascism, my parents had some nice dinner today. We had some steak.
Aw.
Had some nice little din-dins.
That's cute.
I got myself some nice whiskey. It's a
Ooh.
Suntory Hibiki.
Very nice. Ooh, very nice.
Yeah.
My brother messaged me and was like, Dad's so happy he's gonna go buy another American flag.
That's so funny.
Like,
oh my
I'm
god.
like, what? And so then he took a picture of my dad leaving the house as he was going to go buy another flag.
That's so funny. That's so funny. I love that.
Yeah, and he was like, oh yeah, and he's going to go get beer too. When did Dad become this American?
When did Dad become this American? My dad has always been that American. You know, and this is kind of funny though. And I say funny. By funny I mean now that we're kind of in the post-election phase, somewhat amusing. Before it was mildly terrifying. Just how well Trump trends with like older Asian Americans. Like I don't know if you've had this experience, but like we certainly have, where obviously everyone in our family is kind of on the same page here. We're just like, okay, well, we got to vote for Biden, you know, and whatever, and then we like don't tell each other how we vote on the proposition so that we can stay unified as a family, right?
Yeah.
But it's funny because like the other people and my parents like talk about this, where like we know people who like are like pro Trump, right? Who are like Korean Americans,
Sure.
like old Korean Americans, and
Yeah.
we're just like, we just kind of nervously side eye. We're like, oh boy, oh boy. Yeah, you know, white supremacy's gonna chew you up and spit you out the same way it does to white people.
No, and it's interesting. Like, I understand the sentiment of like, yikes, you agree with someone whom I very much disagree with for many moral reasons as well as political, but I feel like I am benefited by the fact that I am literally related to people who vote opposite of me, right?
Oh, boy.
Their political beliefs are not, like, we don't share them. But the reason why is because I don't want to be surrounded in an echo chamber, right? I try very hard to make sure that I get my news from different kinds of sources and that I'm able to, at the very least, understand and communicate with someone who might be voting for very different reasons than me, right? They might have very different priorities. I don't know everything that goes into their decision making. And so by being able, or by being forced into a position where I have to, you know, accept them and listen to them, understand them, then I feel like that, I mean, I feel like in general people could do with that more, right?
I think so. As long as people are willing to listen.
Yes,
it's kind
exactly.
it's kind of like that thing where like you should listen to other people.
Yeah.
But you shouldn't be expected to entertain their position if it's complete garbage nonsense, right? Like, there is definitely a line that you have to draw at a certain point, because like you can tell when somebody, and like this is the case where like certainly I obviously don't agree with people who vote for Trump for various reasons, namely being that, if like no matter what issue you're voting for, if you are voting for that by voting for a person who has, a very explicit criminal background, I should say, and is kind of just a morally repugnant human being, right? It's just like, I don't really personally feel the need to explain to you why that's not like good, right? Because like, obviously it is important to entertain other perspectives. I think it is important to know the differences between you and another person. It's kind of the core of empathy, where not everything should be the same, obviously, because people are different, and it is important that we recognize and honor those differences instead of trying to make them all the same. But I will say that just like in general, it's like you should listen, but you shouldn't have to engage, right? Because
definitely.
Some people definitely are not willing to listen.
Exactly. 100% I agree with that. You should always be, well, not always, but as much as you can, be willing to listen to someone else. And if they're not willing to listen to you, or if you don't feel like you're like emotionally in a position where you are able to engage, then don't. Like definitely do what's healthiest for you in terms of that kind of discussion and all that. I just, I feel like regardless of how strongly you feel about your political position, you never want to be that crazy uncle or aunt or relative or whomever that people are kind of like, ugh, about, where like you're at the family reunion and you're just espousing your political beliefs and no one wants to listen to you, right? Because you're so, I don't know, you're so not willing to listen to others, essentially, right? Mm-hmm. Like you're so one-sided about it because you're so passionate about it. Right. But if you're not willing to listen to other people, they're not going to be willing to listen to you.
Yeah,
so.
Like I mean, it's as always, just listen with with an open heart but a hard fist. Anyway, God, I hope this recording just isn't like complete garbage nonsense content. Because I'm like, obviously my parents are still celebrating outside, so I'm just like very afraid that they're gonna pick up on the microphone.
That's fine. I don't hear anything, so.
Yeah, but that's because Discord has like kind of robust like noise filters. I just hope it won't show up when I'm talking. That's all. Anyway.
Okay.
So, what have you been up to, Renu, in the course of this hell week?
I have, for the most part, just been focusing on work and staying off of social media because the news is always changing during this week, and I decided that I would just wait for the results.
A good plan. I stayed off of Twitter for the most part as well.
Yeah, I didn't want to hear about certain people claiming victory when it wasn't happening and people arguing and so on and so forth. I just decided that because the tension and anxiety was so palpable within my own office, even though we weren't even talking about it, it would just be better to just go play Monster Hunter World or something, Right. So, aside from that, I got woken up today by my roommate for a surprise outing to go have ramen and go to the zoo. So that was fun.
Nice.
It was a nice outdoor thing. So we were able to stay away from other people for the most part and enjoy watching some animals. And it was kind of like, the weather was really nice. So it was just like a nice way to spend the weekend after all the mess from this week.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's about it. I haven't had to do a whole lot since I've been focusing on my own thing.
Fair enough.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Shall we talk about anime?
We should absolutely talk about anime because we have a lot to talk about.
Yeah. We will be here forever. Okay.
Yeah.
Let's start with Jujutsu Kaisen, which we watched like 3 weeks ago and haven't really watched since. So like, I remember it being pretty cool, but I also just a lot of it has kind of dripped out of my brain.
It was about this boy who he is trying to do well by his grandpa by not joining any clubs, and grandpa is just like, heck you should enjoy your life. Leave me alone, you belligerent grandson. And then they have this like kind of outwardly antagonistic, but truly they actually care for each other relationship.
Right.
Grandpa's in the hospital. And then ghosty goo stuff happens. The boy finds this little artifact thing that's definitely haunted. It's sealed up. His friends in the occult club decide that they're going to unseal it. And in the meantime, boy has met this other guy who knows what the artifact is and warns him about how dangerous it is. The friends unseal it. Stuff goes crazy. A monster gets unleashed. The guy tries to fight it, and with his little wolf companion, some familiars. They manage to save the cult club classmates, but then in the end, boy gets possessed by the monster demon thing, and that's where we're at.
I see. I forgot we ended there. Yeah. This show looks good. It looks really good. I mean, it's probably a popular Shonen Jump kind of mainstay right now for a reason.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's very much like a shonen battle anime, which I mean we've gotten obviously a couple of them, but this one looks interesting. Certainly.
Yeah. A lot of people are excited about this anime. And then I forgot to mention that the grandpa dies during the episode. And
he dies in episode 1. Which is like, oh no, grandpa.
It was very much an oh no, grandpa moment.
Oh no, not grandpa.
Yeah.
This looks good, honestly. I think overall, like, it just looks very, very well done, and I find no objectionable content in it.
Yeah. No, I liked it. We watched one episode of it, and I liked it.
Good old strong boy helping out his friends. He just wants to help his friends.
Yeah, I hope it'll keep up the I guess how good it was in the first episode. So.
Yeah, I don't really have anything other to say about it, right? Really, because I don't know anything about it. Obviously, this truly is kind of like a very much like a return to form sampler episode where we've only watched one episode of all of these things.
Mm-hmm. I'm willing to continue watching it for sure.
I'm very much willing to continue watching it.
Yes,
like, this is something that I would watch week to week.
Mm-hmm.
Is where I'll put the stamp on week to week.
Sure. Bop.
So let's talk about Higurashi. This
Bruh.
is a. Have you ever watched the original Higurashi? I don't think I asked.
No, I have seen the GIFs and the clips.
Okay,
I have not actually just watched through it because it wasn't something I had wanted to watch at the time.
I've definitely watched an amount of the original series. And it was confusing for me then, and it's like somewhat confusing for me now. But like, I think I've mostly sorted how it goes. It's like a murder mystery thriller serial killer kind of thing. There's something weird going on in the village, and they have to figure it out. And the gimmick is that it's a time loop scenario, right? So the reason that the new Higurashi is not a remake but a quote-unquote sequel, I guess, is because it's a time loop gimmick. So it is, I guess, exploring another one of those loops or something.
So they didn't get out of it at the end of the original anime?
I don't remember the end of the original anime. I'm gonna be honest. When I watched it, none of it, I think, stuck in my brain, aside from how hilarious the like freeze frames are if you just like pause it in the middle of a murder scene.
Yeah.
Which is like kind of a weird thing to say about a murder scene in an anime, but like legitimately the like in between frame faces that they animate are wildly amusing for absolutely no reason.
They definitely became memes. Yeah.
Extreme, because like they're so grotesque to the point of being comical. Which is, I think, the point, really. It is exactly that kind of thing where, like, if you are interested in Higurashi as like a thing and what it does, which is to say it's like from the outside it kind of looks like this like moe anime, and then on the inside it's like murder guru, like whatever, right? It's one of those shows that has enough of a reputation, I think, that most people have already formed their opinions about it, right? This new one is I mean, yeah, it's good. The animation is fine for the most part.
Mhm.
It's good. The style of it is a little shiny.
It is shiny, yeah.
It's like very shiny, but it doesn't look
Yeah.
like, I don't know how I feel about how shiny it looks. Everything looks like really weird and like glossy, but other than that, like it doesn't look bad, right? Like they've kind of toned the proportions of the characters' faces to look like vaguely normal, and at least in the kind of context of being an anime.
Yes.
Yeah. But yeah, like you'll know if this is for you. I don't know whether I will keep watching it week to week. That's kind of more up to you. You, Renu,
I don't
suppose.
know. I would only be interested in it because I've never actually watched Higurashi, and I don't know how this one relates.
It does kind of feel like you should watch the original and try to understand it first, doesn't it?
I guess so, but
I mean,
I have to watch
if we have time, because I mean, at the end of the day, I'm like looking through kind of what all of the stuff that we watched is. A lot of it is like very passable. I think for the most part we're not going to really end up with that big of a list of things to watch. Like,
yeah, I guess we'll assess and see, because there's some other stuff that we have to finish too, like Beastars and Great Pretenders. To get through as well, so.
It would be nice if we could get together and do that as well. Absolutely.
It seems like the kind of series that definitely takes itself super seriously for obvious reasons. It's a horror mystery anime. I kind of just have to be in the mood for watching a lot of human destruction.
Yeah. Right.
I don't know what kind of mood that is, but yeah.
It's like slightly adjacent to the like horror mood, right?
Yeah, I guess so. It definitely has that feel of, if you've ever played any kind of Japanese visual novel where the beginning is extremely slow and mundane, but then it starts ramping up really quickly once you get through the slog. Yeah,
you have to wait for
episode
the
1
for sure.
Yeah, exactly. So
like it's gonna be very because it's like it has the veneer of a slice of life to contrast the kind of like murder against
right,
but you can clearly tell that it's not like really that committed to it. It's just like, there's gonna be like a murder.
Oh yeah,
right? Like
no, because the very very beginning of the episode, you see a little short clip of like a silhouette of who you presume to be the main guy slamming some kind of object down onto a female corpse, and there's blood splattering all over the place, and so that's how they begin the episode, and then they get into the slice of life stuff. So they very quickly address the fact that yes, this is Higurashi. So
it's Higurashi, and you will know if this is for you if you know anything about Higurashi, which is to say murder. Okay. Next, let's talk about Tonikaku Kawaii, which is by the person that does I think this is created by the creator of Hayate the Combat Butler.
Oh, that makes sense now. Okay.
Yeah. It's very I legitimately don't know what to make of this show. I don't know if you watched it, because I know we watched
I watched
it separately. Yeah.
Yes.
It's like a slice of life, but also there's some like weird stuff going on about this kind of like Princess Kaguya sort of thing that's going on, where like I don't know, right? I could not say for you. The episode 1 did not clear anything up. He just gets hit by a car and then they get married.
Okay, yes. All right. So let's talk about what happened in episode 1. So this guy, his name is Nessa, and he's had a complex about it all his life, because people laugh at him for his name being the name of, the space, And so he decides that he's gonna be better than actual NASA and be smarter and get the best grades ever. And it's like, all right, dude, whatever. He, on his way to his exam, or no, on his way, I guess, home from his practice exams, he comes across this girl who it's like love at first sight kind of deal. He starts running across the street to go talk to her. He gets hit by a truck, and she's like, she apparently ends up saving him from taking fatal damage. You don't really know how. It's kind of like left up in the air as to how she did it, but she's also bleeding. And so she tells him to, I don't know, get emergency services and to take care. And so she leaves. He ends up chasing after her, even though he has broken bones and is bleeding out of everything, and follows her to a bus stop, confesses to her, and then she tells him that she would be willing to go out with him if he marries her. And so he agrees, and then he passes out from his injuries. And then years later, I guess, he ends up graduating, but he doesn't do anything with his degree. He works for like a convenience store now, and he has his own place. Girl shows up. She has marriage papers. She's ready to get down to get married. He ends up signing the papers, and they start living together. At the end, they hold hands for like the first time, and that's it. That's the first episode.
Yep. I don't know what to make of it.
I don't either. It's very bizarre. Like, it definitely has its own sense of humor, and so if you're down to clown with it, then it'll be up your alley. It's definitely not the kind of thing that you ought to take seriously. For it kind of sets that tone immediately. But yeah, I guess maybe for us it doesn't quite align with our senses of humor, right?
Yeah. I mean, I was expecting there to be a little bit more of the kind of like weird supernatural element that seems to kind of be pervading the series. Like, I'm just wondering about this whole like Princess Kaguya thing, right? Like, it's the only thing I'm really that interested in necessarily. I mean, as far as a kind of like cute slice of life newlywed show goes, I'm sure you'll be perfectly happy with this. And I think, to be fair, that is something that like I imagine a lot of people would be interested in watching at this kind of current moment in time.
Sure, something that
right.
they don't really have to talk about or think about. I'm also interested in the Princess Kaguya element of it, because he kind of compares her to that story when he's about to like pass out or whatever from his injuries. And so you kind of wonder, like, okay, what is her deal? She's super mysterious, and both of their names are very space, celestial themed, I guess. Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, I don't know. I think one of the main draws of it is who actually is this girl, and why is she so willing to get married to this practical stranger?
Right.
Yeah.
Interested, but not necessarily like number one priority, I would say.
Yeah, it's definitely not mine either. I was definitely, the entire first half of the episode, I was like, why am I watching this? And then as it started to like wrap up at the end, I was like, okay, that's kind of cute. They got a little plant from the guy, and then now they're holding hands. And
I'm not gonna lie, I really just wanted to watch the first episode to see him get hit by the car.
Really?
I think I said that when we were watching the trailer. I was like, I want to watch the first episd of this just to see him get hit by the car.
I mean, he got hit by it, that's for sure.
I sure did. He sure did.
Yeah. I got really frustrated by the fact that he like got up from his injuries and started running after her. I was like, please, Lord, help me get out of this anime.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah. So I don't think either of us are super enthused about this anime, but it's also not something that we're quite looking for to watch.
Yeah, it's one of those shows that, because I think, generally speaking, when we watch anime, we're either looking for something that's, like, very funny, like highly entertaining to watch, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or we're looking for something that is either doing something interesting or
Mm-hmm.
has some like clear narrative goal to it, or
Yeah.
some cool
Mm-hmm.
themes that are exploring, or has some like really
Mm-hmm.
good animation, right? Like
Yeah.
we're looking for things that like we are enthused about.
Yes.
And this
Yeah.
we are not necessarily enthused about. Is
Yeah,
how I'll
and
put
that's
it.
not to say that it's bad. It's competently done, and it definitely, if what you're looking for is some kind of like a cute little love comedy, then that's what
Yeah.
this is.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's one of those things that I would watch in my off time, right?
Mm. Sure.
But not on my podcast time. Taps watch.
Oh, very important time.
Do you want to talk about Noblesse?
Oh wait, we have one more before it.
Oh, do we?
This one.
Oh, I
Yeah.
must have missed it. Sorry. Majou no Tabi. This is interesting.
It is interesting. For me, because we had watched quite a few anime that night that was not super I guess narratively cohesive.
Uh-huh.
This one, at least for the first episode, it actually had like the writing was there, right? It had moments, character moments. It like very clearly had its own goal within the episode to like, introduce you to the characters, but also really like establish how their dynamic is going to be for the rest of the show, and it does that really well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's a nice little show. It felt very like Kiki meets Karate Kid. Like I don't,
Kiki meets Karate Kid. I think, yeah, the first episode sets up the like backstory of the character.
Yeah,
so it's a very like traditional narrative, right? Where like the first episode is the like become training, like become mage training arc, and then the rest of the series I think is just gonna be like I think it's just gonna be like Kino no Tabi, right, where she just goes to different places and does different things.
Yeah, that's fair. So just to briefly talk about what the show's about for our audience, it's about this girl witch. It's about this girl who wants to become a witch, and she ends up going to this town to find to get an apprenticeship with established witches already. But because she graduated so young, she's kind of ostracized by all the witches who are threatened by her, and they don't want to train her. And so she ends up in this forest where there's this eccentric witch who's living out by herself. She tries to like wrangle her into an apprenticeship. The woman agrees, and so for a month the woman kind of like blows her off by like making her do chores instead of actually training her. And so the girl gets really frustrated, and once her frustration starts reaching a peak, the witch ends up testing her abilities and basically annihilates this child. Like, no joke, is summoning like boulders and like it's crazy, like fire storms from the sky. It's horrible. It's really like awful to watch this girl get absolutely thrashed. And naturally the girl at the end starts crying
right,
because she was so utterly destroyed. And it turns out that her parents had paid this witch to train their daughter to teach her about what defeat and failure is like, because this girl has always worked so hard that she's succeeded at everything, but she's never actually tasted the humility of like defeat and what that can teach you. And so after that they start establishing like a more student teacher dynamic, and so the girl is sent on like a journey to like travel and learn more things. And that's the show. It's nice. It's not like I don't have anything like against it.
Yeah. I think the first episode is probably going to be like very different than the next couple. So I definitely want to watch at least another episode to get more of a feel for it.
Yeah.
I mean, I liked what I've seen so far, but like it kind of hits all the things that I like, right? I like witches and shows. I like journey shows that presumably are gonna do kind of like this like lateral world building. This like I like shows that are more about this setting and the kind of implications of the setting than
Mhm.
necessarily the characters, which is why I love Kino no Tabi so much. And
Yeah.
also shows like Mushishi, right? Where
Yeah.
a lot of those shows are very kind of ambient and about setting a tone and like learning things about the world and learning what you can learn from that. And I think
Yeah.
this is a much lighter has a much lighter tone to it. It's much
Oh,
more
for
about
sure.
like
Yeah.
you know this girl's like personal journey. It's like I want to become a witch. I want to journey the world, right? And it's hard to talk about the show without watching more of it, but it definitely
Yes.
does interest me, and I do love
Yeah.
witches.
If it ends up taking the route of Kino no Tabi or Mushishi, then obviously I'm down because those are two of my favorite anime ever. It's I think it's because that those two anime have that strong tone like you mentioned. Like they establish it immediately that I
Yeah,
was
they're very
immediately
different
drawn into them.
shows for that in
Yeah.
that regard, for sure.
Yeah. So this one hasn't quite established that tone for me yet. Or its own tone for me yet, I should say.
Yeah. I
So
agree.
yeah, I definitely would be willing to watch another episode to see where it goes. Yeah.
I will say the one thing I do like about episode 1 is when she's kind of like telling off the main character who I don't remember the name of because like all of the names just slide out of my brain now. But the main character is essentially getting chided by the older teacher witch, right? Who is like
Yeah.
I do like that the kind of lesson that she learns there isn't necessarily like you should learn defeat and the taste of failure, right?
They get into it, yeah.
About so much as it is more about like those things are important, but also you shouldn't just grin and bear everything just because you feel like you have to. And I feel like that's nice too, right?
That is
like,
nice, yeah.
I like when shows take a kind of different approach to a traditionally explored problem, which is why I like shows like I really like. In terms of manga, I like Silver Spoon a lot because of this. Because one of the main tenets of Silver Spoon is like running away is sometimes the best option, right? Because it means that like you can take some time for yourself to think through a problem, and if you do that, then that time spent running away isn't a waste, right? It's okay to take a step back and not be productive or whatever if you need it to like continue to move forward. Like you're just gonna get burnt out otherwise. And I really like that actually.
Right.
And I get the same kind of vibes from this. I'm very curious to see where it goes in terms of the next couple episodes. I think that'll really decide whether or not I want to keep watching it.
Yeah.
So far I'm interested, obviously, but conditionally.
Yeah,
if
yeah.
the next
yeah.
couple episodes are like really boring, then I'll be like, whatever.
Yeah.
Me. So conditionally interested. Boom.
Sure. Yep. Okay. Now let's talk about Noblesse.
Okay. Oh dear God. This show doesn't make any sense. Like, did we watch one episode or two?
We watched one.
Oh my God. It felt like a lot more than one episode. There was so much stuff that happened and none of it made any sense. There's like vampire hit squads and they fight and there's genetic experimentation. There's vampires in the school. There's a school and there's like teenagers. I don't. Oh.
I don't even know. Okay, so
I don't know
apparently
where to begin with this show.
Yes. Apparently it is based on a webtoon that came out in the early 2000s. And so I guess it has a bit of that feel where it feels like it's kind of scattered, I guess. Where do we begin with this show? There's a very clearly a vampire main character.
Yep.
Who goes to school and with his very non-vampire looking classmates. And you get a little bit of a slice of life feel, but then there is a vampire hit squad out there who is like destroying an army or something. And they're on their way to come find this vampire guy, and you get the sense that they're gonna clash. The I don't remember who he was. He was like the bodyguard. He ends up having his own character arc within the first episode where he kind of bonds with this janitor guy who
Holy shit, yeah.
who
You went through a
is
guy's
like very
entire
sweet to him.
trauma arc in
Yeah.
one like in less than an episode. Like this guy gets introduced like not even like at the beginning, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, he doesn't get introduced at the beginning. He gets introduced later on in the episode, and he gets hired as a bodyguard for the vampire student. And he has, I don't know why, but the episode decides to focus on his character arc, where, yeah, he befriends this janitor who's nice to him, and is like, take it easy on your first day, blah, 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 that kind of deal. But then later on, these like thug kids visit the school. I don't know if they actually go there or not, but they start bullying some of the other students there, and then the janitor tries to make them leave.
Oh my
god! But
God.
then they start bullying him too.
I completely forgot that dude. One of the students blocks this dude's punches. Okay, all of the bad guys, by the way, you can tell they're bad guys because they're 8 feet tall. They're huge.
The proportions make no sense in this anime.
Enormous. and then the one of the characters who's like the vampire main character's like friend like broke his arm, but like it has his arm in a cast and he uses it to block punches. Like it's a shield. That's not how it works. Like even a plaster cast, right? Like still.
Yeah. Yeah, so the episode kind of ends-ish with the bodyguard saving these students and the janitor from these thug students. And all's well that ends well until the vampire hit squad is shown looming over the city, and they look like they're ready to descend upon it, and that's how the first episode ends.
Yep. That sure is. This show is a mess, and if it's anything like any like I know what you mean exactly when you talk about how like early 2000s webtoons feel. They always feel very like scattered because they're kind of scattershot, like throwing spaghetti in the wall to see what sticks.
Yeah, exactly.
So, like, you're not sure if this is supposed to be like a serious like battle anime or whether it's supposed to be slice of life or some weird comedy because like the main character is like really doesn't understand anything about like people because he's obviously a vampire who's like thousands of years old, but he's still in high school. It's very like Twilight in a kind of strange way, and you're not sure if it's supposed to be like a character drama but be about like this dude's like traumatic arc from becoming a mutation where all his friends got slaughtered by the government.
Oh yeah,
or
he
something.
lost all his friends, and then now he saw a bodyguard at the school or security guard.
There's a lot that happens. It's not very well put together. It doesn't look amazing. It doesn't look terrible, but it doesn't look amazing in terms of animation, and it's very like. It's very like how do I feel this? It's discontinuous. It doesn't feel like it's like all part of the same thing. That's why I was like, is it 2 episodes? No, we watched 1 episode. It doesn't feel like it's something that should be contained within 1 episode. It feels like there were a lot of things here and you should have followed maybe a different way of directing your show, right? And I don't know how much of this is the webtoon and how much of this is the anime, but like when you're making an anime, you're allowed to make it make more sense for the screen, right? Like this is a directorial problem, whether it is because you followed way too faithfully or not, right? It's like something went wrong.
I don't know where
here.
the line is.
Something went wrong here. I just don't know what. Noblesse is a mess, but it is a very popular webtoon. So while I'm not personally interested in watching it unless someone comes out and says, oh, don't worry, it gets like really good around episode like 4 or whatever, right? It is,
but it's such a mess.
It's such a mess, right? And it might just become less of a mess by abandoning all the things that makes it a mess, right? Like it could very well easily do that. Like God knows that there's many manga that start out like having a certain tone, and then they just toss it away to like do something else, right? Like Bleach was like that.
Yeah.
And like Naruto was very much like this, where like
Yeah.
it's about like sad ninja boy and his like sort of sad comedy trauma, and like doing his best to become a ninja, and then like somewhere along the way it like becomes like, all right, welcome to World War III Ninja Edition. And you're like, this isn't what I signed up for. Right? And like Bleach is like, yeah, cool. You got Monster of the Week, substitute Soul Reaper, Neato, Burrito. This guy doesn't know what he's doing, but he's doing his best. To like the dramatic arc that was admittedly very good, right? Of like, all right, we gotta save Rukia from the Soul Society, and then like,
that arc was so good.
Turns out the bad guy was Aizen all along. You're like, holy shit, whoa! And then like,
then he ascended into the sky, and then
right.
the show became bad.
And then it becomes a complete mess after that. Because there's new things coming all the time, and none of them make really that much sense, and it's just. There's no real purpose to any of it except to prolong the longevity of like Bleach as a concept. Which is like, but yeah, it's it could be good. Question mark. Is
based on the first episode.
Yeah.
It's one of those, for me, I was so highly entertained watching this show because it was one of those so bad it's good kind of shows where
I think a lot of vampire shows are like that. Like we at some point watched that vampire musical anime. I don't remember the name of.
I love that show.
Yeah, I know you're quite enamored with it.
Yeah, definitely it's in the same boat.
Right.
Nothing. There's nothing quite like a show where later on in the season you get dogs singing in a vampire musical anime, and it's really just the best thing ever.
Oh god, what was the name of that show?
I don't remember.
Okay, fair enough. So yeah, Noblesse. Maybe not our thing. Maybe it gets better. I don't really
Dance
care.
with Devils.
Dance with Devils. Oh, you're right. That's what it was called. Yeah, I don't really care too much to see where it goes from here, unless someone explicitly says like it was really good, right?
Yeah, maybe I'll watch it in my off time because it's just so funny. But it's,
yeah, this
like,
seems very much like a Renu amusement watch. If we have time to, I guess we could, but like otherwise probably not. Speaking of things that we probably won't watch, I'm Standing on 1 Million Lives is an isekai show that had absolutely nothing going for it.
I was very curious to hear your opinion about this show.
So, I mean, it's like it's an isekai and it's also kind of not, because I guess they like come back to the real world. It's kind of like Gantz in a weird way. But like the gimmick is that they all suck. They all have abilities that suck. They're all really bad at fighting. They're like, we gave the mage wind ability. It makes a light breeze. And essentially they can die and come back as many times as they want, as long as at least one of them is still alive. So it's kind of like if you're playing like a video game like Left 4 Dead, where like as long as one of you is alive, you don't party wipe.
Right.
And that's interesting, but the animation was and the story itself was kind of like weird, because the tone of it was completely all over the place. I wasn't sure whether or not this was supposed to be a serious, like, if you die in the game, you die in real life mood, or not. But because it kind of plays it that way, where it's like, we can't lose here. But at the same time, the like GM, quote unquote, of the game shows up, and he's like a blue CG man who is naked and has half of the top half of his head missing, and he spins a wheel to show you what class you are, and our main character gets the farmer
The tone
class.
is bizarre. Yeah.
So the tone is all over the place. I have absolutely no idea what's going on. And to me is just like, why is this an anime, right? Like,
Yeah.
surely something interesting happens later in, but like, I would rather just read a manga adaptation than waste my time watching an anime, which feels kind of bad to say, but like, it's kind of true,
Yeah.
right? Like, if the anime is not going to look that good, why am I watching it?
I do like the core premise of it being about like trying to maintain your party and how as long as you have one member of your party standing, then it's good. Like that kind of concept is like, I think, interesting to me, and also the fact that they don't quite know who next is going to join their party unless the GM tells them like about who they need to meet next, and you don't know what class they'll end up as. I think
Right.
that's also interesting.
Mhm.
Because like they have the mage girl first, and then she recruits the warrior girl, who is also incompetent because she doesn't have the bravado to actually use her sword properly.
Mhm.
And then they recruit the guy who ends up being a farmer, and his tools break immediately whenever he tries to attack anything.
Mhm.
And so, but then by the end, the tone shifts to something way more serious because the mage girl gets eaten, the warrior has her hand bitten off, and none of them are regenerating because they're still, I guess, considered mid-quest with this giant monster thing, this ogre or
Right.
whatever.
Yeah.
And so it's basically left to farmer guy to rescue them, and the tone just like gets very serious at the end, but then they try to play it kind of like, I don't know, maybe like a little, I don't know how to describe it, kind of edgy-ish, where he
Yeah.
ends up like really, he much vastly prefers this world despite their lives being at risk over living in real society.
Yeah, I completely forgot this part, but he's basically a complete psychopath. Like the episode ends and he's just like, yes, I've been
Yeah.
waiting. I've been waiting for so long for a chance to just do murder. Although, to be fair, the episode opens with him like being a complete psycho in the video game he's playing, where he's just like, I don't care about you. I just want to finish this by myself. As long as I make it through, whatever. I think the arc. Okay, if my intuition is correct, the general arc is gonna go in one of two directions, right? I mean, it has to go in one of two directions. Either he is going to learn the value of friendship and becoming a member of a party that works together, or he's gonna become a complete incel. There's no in between. Those are the two options.
I think it seems like it'll go for the former rather than the latter, but I guess we'll see.
Maybe. I don't know. There's
there is some
there's enough
gray area
characters
there.
that I think maybe it will.
Yeah.
But
I mean, he gets a party of ladies. You remember from the
He
trailer?
could always be an incel. I mean, listen, you can be an incel and still be in a party of ladies. That's how every isekai works. Like every isekai is just like, I've been spurned by the hero's party. It's okay, I'll build a new harem. Anyway, terrible. This show I don't recommend. I'm not
a huge fan of it either. Yeah.
If there's a manga, just read the manga. Honestly, maybe I will.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll tell you about it. Anyway, the premise is interesting, but it's just not executed good at all.
Yeah,
and
it's
I don't
not
really care, right? Because it's just like you've introduced some stakes, but they're so convoluted and complicated that I don't care.
It's very confusing. Yeah.
Yeah, like there's no clarity of purpose here. Like, is it just like people are useless? I'm gonna become the strongest villager. I don't know. Whatever. Anyway, do you want to talk about the next one?
Yeah. So the next one is Kamisama ni Natta Hi. It's about this little girl who descends to the earth, and she claims to be Odin. And it takes the whole episode, but then by the end, the guy is convinced that yes, indeed, this girl has godlike powers because she is able to predict horse races.
Yeah, she has like omnipotency, I guess.
Yeah, but then when she tries to help him get with the girl that he wants to get with, by the way, the guy's name is Izanagi, and the girl he wants to get with is Izanami. Whoa. It fails wonderfully. And so yeah, anyway, he has to take care of this girl now because they're apparently going to cohabitate in the same house because his mom decided that she was going to agree to take this strange girl in, and you get the sense that she knows who this girl is. But yeah, the girl is predicting that the world will end very soon, and so this guy might as well, take advantage of her powers while he has her around.
Yep.
Before the world ends.
Yep. It's I'm interested. I think I'm gonna watch more of this. I think we're gonna watch more of this. That is to say.
Yeah, if it does end up going in a direction that says something, then that would be quite something.
Well, this is so it's created by and Kamisama ni Natta Hi is the day I became a god. It's created by the person who did Angel Beats and Charlotte. So basically, it will either be very good or very bad. Or like Charlotte, it will be very good for the majority of it, and then become very bad in the last couple episodes. I don't know what happens because I've never seen it, but that's what I hear anyone ever talk about with that show. They're like, well, it was really good until it wasn't. Yeah,
and all I hear about Angel Beats is that it's very good but heart-wrenching.
Yeah, Angel Beats is really good.
Yeah.
So I mean, it definitely has the setup to be good, because I think one of the really like good things about Angel Beats is how well it builds characters and how well it lets you get attached to them before it hits you with the emotional mallet. So hopefully this is very much the same, that if it's going to pull some kind of like emotional twist on you, that it will build to it gradually and deftly. Like the premise is interesting. Like the fact that someone's just like, the world will end. By the way, I have demonstrated to you beyond reasonable doubt that I have godlike powers. So, will the world end? Like, what's gonna happen? I'm actually interested in what's gonna happen in this show.
Yeah.
Like generally speaking, to me, like the plot of a show is less of a factor as much as how it is executed, right? I think very boring premises can have very good shows, and very interesting premises can have very bad executions, which lead to bad shows. So
yeah, definitely. It seems like enough in that middle area of like, it's not badly done so far.
Yeah, it looks good, right? Like it animation wise is a little bit bloomy, but it like looks good.
Oh yeah, definitely a little bit bloomy, but it's not outrageous.
Like they're going a little hard on the filters, but it's not as bad as Oreski, right?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I am interested. I'm also interested in seeing how like the true identities of the guy and the girl, Izanagi and Izanami, because we obviously know what their names refer to, and the girl seemed to pay special attention to what their names were. So I'm interested in seeing if they actually do have like a relation to the gods that they're named after, or if it's just like they're just
and I will say I think the show is actually like pretty funny in terms of how it executes its comedy. Like the little gag animations are cute, and the like timing and execution of the jokes is pretty good. Like because because this little girl is like I'm God, right? This dude is like all right, let's get you home, let's get you some
right,
candy,
yeah.
And like she very much like kind of like inadvertently plays along into it in a very fun way, right? Because she's like this haughty little character, so so you're like wondering, you have the same kind of disbelief where you're like, this is just like the very chuny little girl, and then her predictions start coming true, and you're like, wait a minute, and suddenly you're having the same revelation that the main character's having, where you're like, maybe she's onto something. Wait, does that mean the world is gonna end? What does that mean?
Right.
So yeah, I'm looking forward to watching more of this. If for no other reason than to figure out what the hell is going on.
Yeah.
All right. Shall we talk about Hanyo no Yashahime, or Yashahime, the half demon princess?
Yeah, let's talk about this.
I would like to hear your thoughts about this first.
Oh, sure. Great. So I guess my experience with Inuyasha is that I watched all of the anime, including the final acts, and then I read parts of the manga. And so I didn't really want this anime.
You didn't want Boruto, the Inuyasha edition?
Yeah, exactly. I felt like the original story wrapped up really well, like really, really well, and that was it, man.
Right.
It was very long. It was a complete saga, adventure, journey, whatever. It was done. And yet this came out. And so now we have to talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
And from the first episode, so the first episode, it introduces you to Yashahime and her two little cohorts, her sister, and then Inuyasha and Kagume's daughter. And also takes a long flashback to the original characters. And so it kind of like helps you as the audience establish kind of where the characters were after the show ends.
Mm-hmm.
There's more like Shikon duel nonsense. It never ends, man. I don't know. I'm tired.
Yeah.
This show made me tired. The existence of this show, Anyway, the main draw of the show and why people were so freaking ecstatic / intrigued by it was because Yashahime and her sister are the twin daughters of Sesshomaru.
Sesshomaru fucks.
So everyone wants to know, whomst did Sesshomaru get down with? Like, who is the mother of these twin daughters?
Whomst did smother these children? Yeah.
That's the main draw of the show.
I think you're right.
there's nothing, right? Like, I don't, like, the designs of the characters are nice because they were done by the original author. But otherwise, the story content of the show has nothing to do with the original author. Like, she didn't do anything for it aside from the character designs. And so, it feels like someone's fan fiction of Inuyasha. Like,
yeah.
Post finishing the show, they wrote a fan fiction.
It definitely does feel like Inuyasha, for better or for worse. But it definitely is a and this is interesting because it's a trend that has been going on with a lot of shows recently, where you have obviously you have Boruto, and you have the what's it called? There's like the new Dragon Ball Z serialization that's not done by Akira Toriyama because Toriyama doesn't give a fuck. But like Yashahime kind of fits into that same space where it is people who were like really big fans of the original works coming to help create the like quote unquote next generation. And like in some ways I think that's cool because it's like this interesting passing of the torch thing. Mm-hmm. And many other ways I really think we should just let things die. I don't know at what point we stopped being able to let go of things, but we just need to let things die sometimes, right? It's like I think you're right, Inuyasha wrapped up like so well that we really didn't need like Inuyasha 2 Electric Boogaloo featuring the Inuyasha triplets. Two of them coming from Sesshomaru's seed.
Yeah. Stop. This show didn't need to exist, but it does.
But it does, and now we have to grapple with that reality.
It's not offensive. Like, it's fine. The first episode is very clearly a huge homage to the original series, and that's also fine. For me, the best part of the main Inuyasha series was kind of more towards the beginning, but also parts in the middle where it felt very immersed within Japanese mythology and the feudal era, and wasn't so much like Monster of the Week, but it just like the tone of it was was pretty dark, but also like you felt like you were in that world, right? Mm-hmm. And then it eventually just became Kagome as a magical princess girl who can like do she's gonna save the world, and I wasn't super on board for that. And then this sequel kind of picks up on that light tone. Like it continues the light tone versus the heavy, like kind of dark.
Sometimes I forget that Inuyasha is an isekai about the Edo period of Japan.
Yeah.
Because like there's so much between the start of the show and the end of it where it's like they're unrecognizable. Like
yes.
Like it's like Edo Japan, and then like you just immediately kind of careen into like Monster of the Week. Wait, aren't we still in Edo Japan?
Right. You even Kagome during the series sporadically remembers, oh yes, I can go back home anytime I want by going through the well, and see, she just does.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I mean, it is. What to say about Yashahime except that it's like incredibly inoffensive. Just
yes,
but that's kind of all it is, right?
Right. I'm not super interested in it, but yeah, it's not offensive. Like if for some reason this strikes your fancy, by all means watch it because it's not bad.
Sure. I mean, there's definitely people who watch Boruto because they're like, man, I just didn't get enough Naruto, which is like, really, you didn't? I'm shocked. I was done much earlier than you were done.
Yeah. I will say I do like the character designs for like the main.
They're very good.
The main girl,
I think.
Yeah. For Yashahime, I like a lot.
Yeah. I think it's good as a set. They're very good and they complement each other very well.
Mm-hmm.
I like the fact that she's just wearing a white suit for some reason.
Yeah, I think that's nice.
It's very Sesshomaru. Like it's like very Sesshomaru in the modern age. It's like Sesshomaru would wear a white suit everywhere for no reason other than to flex, right?
Yeah, and then the other girl, her sister, looks like a clash between Sesshomaru, or a fusion between Sesshomaru and Sango in her warrior outfit.
Right.
So now you're like, but he didn't bone down with Sango. She already has like 15 kids.
Yeah, I was gonna say. Speaking of, I will say the dirtiest thing that they ever did to this show. The dirtiest thing they ever did was relegate Sango to Miroku's husband.
No, to Miroku's wife.
Miroku's wife. You're right. Sorry. And like they have like 18 kids. There's so fucking many children. And it's like, this makes sense, but also Jesus Christ. I was very much hoping that they would introduce Miroku again as Sango's husband and just be like,
they didn't do that.
And they did
I'm
it.
so
They're
upset.
just like, it's like Miroku, wayward monk, and you're like, really?
Yeah. So Sango is his wife, but he is his own man. All right, whatever. You're
gonna put
fine.
Some disrespect on my girl Sango like this?
They
SMH.
disrespecting her though. Like I didn't. Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so that's Yashahime. Not our cup of tea, really, but maybe it's yours. Up to you?
Yeah.
Question mark. Let's talk about Yuukoku no Moriarty, or Moriarty the Patriot, which is
skipped one again.
It's fine. We'll come back to it.
Okay.
So,
let's talk about this.
Yuukoku no Moriarty is about William James Moriarty, famed arch nemesis of Sherlock Holmes.
Yes.
And follows his misadventures as a consulting criminal. And we watched one episode of it, and it's intriguing. I'm interested, actually.
Okay, so we went into this thinking that it would be garbage fire, but
I thought it'd be really bad, but it actually wasn't.
It actually wasn't that bad. Maybe because our standards were so low in the beginning.
Right.
But I actually, like, it didn't do the thing that I got upset with in the last murder mystery thriller that I watched, in which they inserted evidence that the audience never got to see.
Right.
They very clearly followed a narrative plot line throughout, and you understood the inferences that he was making and the deductions that he was making, and it just made sense all the way until the end. Well, and I really appreciated that.
I like this show because and we've obviously only seen a little bit of it, and it obviously wasn't perfect in this regard.
It was not perfect, yeah.
It doesn't give you a lot of time to think about, and it doesn't give you super in-depth clues. It's clearly not set up to be a mystery that you are supposed to solve.
Right.
Like, it's very much kind of like you're watching Moriarty's kind of guiding hand. But at the same time,
yes.
I think for a show that isn't about Sherlock Holmes specifically, it doesn't matter, right?
Right.
Like, I think
Right.
the more interesting thing about a show about Moriarty is because you get to watch the crime happen in real time, right?
Yeah.
It's a reverse detective fiction where
Right.
you are watching the case get set up. And
Mm-hmm.
the thing about it is so I don't remember who said this, but I think it was like a Waypoint article or something where somebody was talking about how Hitman is a really good Sherlock Holmes game because you set up the murder that happens. And you are along the way putting up all the pieces that lead to someone potentially discovering how the murder was taking place. And I think this show has a very similar energy to it, where it's more about how was the crime committed. Because obviously he does some deductions in the show, and you're like, it's funny because it's like it's a nod to Sherlock Holmes. But really, the kind of meat of the show itself was him going and finding out information about the person who did it, and like casually being like, hey, so you murdered some children, did ya? And then leading and luring him into an abandoned like warehouse so that the father of one of these children could get bloody revenge. And you're like, well, damn.
Right. It has a
happened.
very different conclusion, right? Because with Sherlock, you would expect, okay, he does all this work to find out who the criminal is, then the guy gets jailed, the criminal gets jailed. And so then the conclusion for this, because it's Moriarty who's leading the whole thing, is that a crime happened, and that's why he's the criminal consultant. Yeah, exactly. You find the criminal, and then someone else does the crime, and then that's it. And so then you're left with the I guess the question is, why is he doing this, right? And that I'm pretty sure they'll probably drag that through the show.
So
and, yeah,
I've actually seen some screen caps from some of the from episodes like 2 and 3, and Renu, things get pretty wild.
I'm so ready. I actually want to watch more of this.
I think you're gonna enjoy what comes next.
Yeah,
because it sure tells you quite a bit, and I like I think the complications that it presents. Anyway, yes, I completely agree. It is actually a well put together anime, and it looks pretty good. It's very interesting to watch. Like, there's something happening, and you're like, ooh, like. So many shows like this kind of just get lost in the details, and they like don't have anything interesting to like present to you. But like this show is like, you want to watch somebody do a revenge murder? Yeah, you do. And I'm like, you're not wrong, I guess. And of course, you get to watch all of the crime happen at the hands of Twink Moriarty, who looks like Leo from Tia from Promare.
Yeah, but if Leo was a vampire,
right? Oh, that's right. There's like a whole thing in this show where like some people look like have like vampire teeth, and that's been unexplained. But if it has anything to do with the kind of themes that I'm picking up from the second or third episode, then maybe there is actually something about this vampire thing. Anyway. We're gonna be watching it, and I'm looking forward to more episodes. So Yuukoku and Moriarty, definitely. We're going to be watching it week to week.
Yeah.
I'm
interested in seeing where it goes.
The AdCast stamp of approval. Bump bump.
For now.
For now, it might get much worse. Who knows?
It might Kabuki-cho Sherlock us, but
Lordy.
at least the premise of it so far. I mean, isn't as offensive.
Wasn't Kabuki-cho Sherlock kind of a mess from episode 1?
Yeah, it was. And
All
so
right.
at the very least, the first episode, not quite a mess. Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
So let's go
speaking
back
of messes.
Let's go back and talk about Adachi and Shimamura.
Oh yeah, that's right. Okay, that's not quite a mess. That's fine.
It's not quite a mess. This is a show about 2 girls who are, I guess, delinquents, and they basically fall in love with each other over a game of ping
Oh,
pong that they do instead of going to
yeah.
class because they're delinquents.
Yeah.
This is a very pretty show, like a really pretty show.
It's pretty.
It is like I don't know what exactly it is about it or like what studio does it. But the post processing effects are really really good, and they're used very well, I think. Right? It looks very 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 well done to the point where like a lot of it looks like a movie. And I think that might be somewhat on purpose. I will say it's quite, and I know you had this complaint, but it's quite slow.
Yeah, and that I don't know if it's because of my own personal bias with these kinds of like falling in love shows. But yeah, the storytelling was like the developments were extremely slow, but what really got me was the narration, and that was something that you helped explain to me because this was adapted from a light novel, is that mayhaps it was adapted a little too closely to the light novel.
I suspect
because
so.
The inner monologues of these characters, or at least one of the main girls, is extensive, very very extensive. She voices her every thought at some points, and it is a lot, especially because there's a lot of visual metaphors going on to accompany her narration. It's not that I'm offended by a lot of inner monologue either, because I think there's ways to do it that are very effective. I was reminded of Sangatsu no Lion, which has a lot of inner monologue, but spliced in with some interesting imagery. It helps with the emotional storytelling because there is a lot of that in that show versus the actual events happening within the show, right? And of course, it's united by, or there's a through line of shogi throughout, like
right,
and so. This show feels like there's a through line of ping pong throughout, as these two girls, go through their emotional journey of discovering their feelings for each other and how they're changing. But I don't know why it like offends me so much more than Sangatsu no Lion, right? I guess the writing maybe is just something about the tone. I'm not sure. But it got to a point where it was bothering me how much she was just narrating. Versus in Sangatsu, it doesn't. Yeah. It's not for me, obviously, but it's also not like a bad show either. Like we said, it's really pretty, and it's not badly
visually
written.
It's probably one of the better shows that is airing. Like, as far as a non action show goes, I think it's probably the best looking one. It's just very it's very dense with imagery. In the respect that it is very pretty to look at, and everything looks so well done. Like, there's a very good attention to detail that there isn't necessarily with a lot of other shows.
Yeah, for sure. I think maybe it's just the pacing is not
it's just
me.
really slow. You were just hoping more would happen in the first episode. I think that's it, right?
Yeah, I guess so.
We kind of start in media res, where they're kind of already they already know each other and they're playing ping pong. And then we kind of backtrack and see how they met. But still there isn't really a lot that happens. And I think there doesn't necessarily have to be, but because it's all narration based, you're essentially just watching a very pretty slideshow of animated pieces while someone monologues at you, which is I mean, it might be your speed, but it doesn't cohesively come together in the same way that something like Sangatsu no Lion does, where it is so heavily tied that way.
I guess that's
if you had the first episode of Adachi and Shimamura and you just took out all the dialogue and you only had music, I think you would get the gist of it.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking about too, was that because they had a lot of actual visual imagery accompanying with what she was saying, I felt like a lot of the things that she was saying were completely unnecessary.
I think you're
Like,
I think you're
if,
right.
yeah, if they had just shown the metaphors of, like, you know, the water and stuff like that, and or like the looks that she's sharing with this other girl, and just these kinds of little moments, just let them sit and speak for themselves. Like, you don't have to adapt the, like, yes, the inspiration for these scenes might be the narration from the light novel, but because it's an animation, you can just animate it and then let that be. You don't necessarily have to include the words that created the scene.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And obviously, like, that's just kind of a problem that is always going to plague light novels, especially ones that are very heavily from the perspective of one character internally monologuing about everything that goes around.
Yeah.
It is a result of the form that a light novel takes, where because it doesn't rely on a lot of pictures, it is, especially if it's from the first person, it relies a lot on the person doing the monologuing to explain kind of everything. But in an anime, you don't have to do that, right? You can just have pictures, and then you don't have to say words about the pictures necessarily, because the pictures do speak for themselves.
Yeah, absolutely. I wish they had more of just letting the animation do its thing, because it's gorgeous. It's apparently by Tezuka Productions.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, really interesting. Which, as you guys might know, they focus on adapting Osamu Tezuka's work into anime, and but lately they've been doing different stuff. Like, they did Quintessential Quintuplets.
Oh, that show also looked really good. Well,
yeah, exactly.
Well,
so they make really pretty stuff.
That show looked all right.
Yeah.
That
show
the
art style that's based on is
right.
really good.
But the manga looks really good.
Yeah,
consistently.
the manga is
good.
gorgeous. Yeah. But yeah, no, the animation in this show is really good. So I wish they would just let it speak for itself more.
Yeah.
Yeah. Otherwise, it's fine. Yeah. It is definitely about two girls falling in love. You're not being queer baited or anything. They're definitely
it's definitely
falling
the
in love.
Explicit premise going into it.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. So that's Adachi and Shimamura. I think it's very well worth a watch, actually. Like, I think it's worth checking out to see if you'll enjoy it, because I think if you do, it'll be a very rewarding thing to watch. There's like some weird like question mark metaphor stuff that's going on. Like the alien or like the astronaut.
Oh yeah, chibi. Yeah.
But it's hard to say. I don't know. This is the kind of thing that I would like maybe want to watch, but not with other people. I think with other people, it's just too slow.
Yeah. I think that's entirely fair.
Yeah. Anyway, shall we move on?
Yeah. I guess next is Ikebukuro Westgate Park.
What?
All right, let's talk about this show, because maybe let's start with what it's about, which is we don't quite know. And so maybe we can just talk about what happened in the first episode.
Okay, this show is a mess.
It's a pretty big mess. I'm not... Again, we're not sure what it's about, because it doesn't quite, at least for us, quite solidly establish what it's about. Obviously, it takes place in Ikebukuro, and it naturally, like, there's like gangs and stuff and different factions within this district, and they're all kind of clashing with each other. So the beginning of the show is about these colored factions clashing with each other, and then it becomes this episode about this little girl who wants to get revenge on this drugstore because this guy who was high on weed ran over some pedestrians, and one of those pedestrians was her mom.
Yeah, okay.
And...
So yeah, the anime opens up with like this guy who is clearly on some kind of drug fueled rampage, like just speeding down the streets, and then he gets caught and beat up by these G boys, whatever that means. I guess there's some kind of vigilante force. I guess.
Yeah, I think so.
And like the whole thing is very confusing to me because like their shorthand for drugs was like them growing weed, and it's like you guys like I know that things are a little bit weird in Japan in regards to drugs, but weed is not like cocaine or like meth, right?
If it
like,
had been meth, it would have made a lot more sense.
right. Like I don't know if like there's supposed to be other things that are happening here, or if this is just a fucking weed shop. Like, can you guys please, like, I don't know. There's, I get it, right? Because it's like, that's like the illegal drug shorthand, but it's like such a it's such a comical thing to have this whole drama be set up about like this dude that went like nutso and then like drove over a bunch of people in his car. And then you get into the lab where they're producing the drugs, and it's like they're growing weed. You're like, that is not what marijuana does. THC in your bloodstream will not make you get into your car and drive over people.
Yeah, it
will maybe make you crave a cheeseburger.
It feels so disconnected and uninformed is essentially what it boils down
very,
to.
Like, it's very confused.
Yeah.
And very confusing because like you're not really sure what the fuck a G-boy is supposed to be.
Yeah.
And why the police are just letting a bunch of vigilantes run the city for them, and why people seem to be cheering for the G-boys beating the absolute shit out of some like person high on drugs. Like, everything about this show is so weird. And like in a way that's like different than normal, right? It feels like this show feels like it was made by people who have never experienced drug-related media even, which is wild, right? It's like if you showed a person who made this Breaking Bad, their mind would explode, right? Like, that's what it feels like.
No, for sure. Yeah, 100%. Yeah. Yeah, it feels like it was written by someone who's never had any kind of experience whatsoever with this world, and it almost feels like it's written by a child in that sense, you know? And how disconnected it
anyway,
is.
that's by the way, it's not how meth labs look, so don't even, like... Anyway, this show it wasn't bad, but it wasn't good. Like, it was like Durara if Durara looked like that one crime show that we watched a couple seasons ago, where like there was like that Jeffrey Dahmer guy that just like drilled people's heads open.
Oh yeah, It Invaded.
It Invaded. That's what it was called. It looks like the art style of It Invaded, kind of, but it's
kind
it's
of,
like
yeah.
Plot and tone question mark of Durarara, but not as like weird.
Not even.
Yeah, it's not as,
not
like,
even
wild.
that well executed.
No, like overall, I don't think this is very good, right?
No, it feels super derivative of a lot of different things, but it becomes a mess as a result.
Yeah.
And oh god, we didn't even talk about the goddamn character designs. Like,
yeah, you've got
Lord help you if you can watch this with a straight face while the main character is walking around with the shirt that says "Smoking Kills" on it.
You're right. The entire episode, the main character is wearing this shirt. It's like a black shirt that has like a white box that has white text in it that just plainly says "Smoking Kills." You're like, what the fuck is happening? And then like the girl at the end is wearing like a hoodie that just says "Oregon."
Oregon.
Like, confusing. I don't know. It's like, this feels like if like Tite Kubo had like a less successful brother who decided he would make a manga. That's extremely what it feels like. He's like, I'll show my brother Tite Kubo, famed author of Bleach, what for? And then he made this, right? And you're like, there's a reason Tite Kubo is more famous than you, not Tite Kubo.
Oh my god.
Get in line, second son.
Oh my god. Yeah, no, we said this while we were watching it, but it feels like the plot line of a comedy show, but it's not.
But it's
like,
not.
It takes itself
so
seriously.
Straight.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm gonna give this one a hard pass.
Hard pass.
Hard
yeah.
pass. Put the stamp down. Boom.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, well, let's talk about something that's actually good. Let's talk about Maou-Jou de Oyasumi. I don't remember the name of this in English, but it's the Sleepy Princess.
Yeah.
This is a great show. I love the manga for this, and the anime is good too.
Oh my god, it was so funny. It was legitimately entertaining.
So the princess gets kidnapped by the Demon King and is kept in the Demon King's castle, and all she wants to do is sleep. So she will do everything in her power and then some to get a good night of rest, and that
right, because she's a prisoner. She doesn't have anything to do.
and that includes going out of her way to break out of her cell and then hunt down and cut off all the capes in the castle before realizing that the most beautiful and comfortable one of all is a furoshiki or sheet ghost, and so she just snips it in half and just takes it.
Her trials and tribulations to get a nice night's sleep are so incredibly entertaining and yet so relatable, because I too would just want a nice night's sleep if I was in her position.
Yeah, this show is great. I love the manga. I've read a ton of the manga for this.
Yeah,
and I highly recommend it. Like, the animation is
the animation is good, and the writing is really good. Yep. The pacing is just really like on point for the comedy.
All the characters are very endearing.
They're very endearing, and you just like, you keep wondering after she gets each stage of her thing done, like, okay, she has a nice pillow. What's next? Okay, she wants nice sheets. Okay, what's next? She wants a little headband. All right, and then it keeps going and going from there, and it gets more and more outrageous, but it's so funny.
Yep. Big fan over here.
Yeah. I highly recommend. It's a little bit dark. It has a bit of the dark comedy, but it's done in a really good way.
It's a little dark comedy because it's an RPG world, and so they can respawn in the church.
Yeah.
But she decides, the coffin looks really comfortable, but I need something to grind it. The demon priest has rough-looking horns, uses entire face to sand a coffin. It's very enjoyable slapstick comedy, and I highly recommend it. I enjoy it immensely. We're definitely going to be watching this going forward.
Yeah, it feels to me like the kind of show where you watch the first episode and you immediately understand the tone going forward and how the comedy is going to play out. So at least I definitely recommend giving the first episode a watch.
Absolutely. Anyway, let's talk about Magatsu Wahrheit Zuerst. Yes, that is the title of the anime. This is apparently based on a mobile game, and it's like about a tyrannical government that cedes power to a demagogue that becomes basically the god king emperor of a king. Hey, wait a minute. Sorry, I got lost.
Oh, you had a moment. Yeah, you got lost in the sauce a bit. Yeah.
Anyway, I was legit thinking about this when you saw the kind of like consolidation of military power in the beginning of the show, where I was like, oh no, oh god. But anyway, they basically the show follows a courier who accidentally delivered weapons, and so now he's on the run and part of an illegal terrorist force of freedom fighters that wants to overthrow the oppressive government, which, I mean, I guess that is pretty relatable content nowadays, huh? But it's not incredible, not bad, but not incredible. It feels a lot like Fire Emblem, kind of.
Really?
A little bit, right? Because it's about a small force overtaking a large oppressive one. So there's a little bit of a Fire Emblem-esque feeling to it, and some other stuff. But I mean, overall, it's like all right. right? It's based on a mobile game.
It is all right.
I was not
agree.
expecting it to be any good when I learned it was based on a mobile game.
Yeah, no, it's better than I expected, considering it was based on a mobile game.
Yeah.
Generally, these kinds of anime that are based on mobile games are hot garbage fire, with like a couple of rare exceptions. But for the most part, they're like really disjointed, or they're low budget, or just not made well in general. But this one, it did have a plot line, and it carried through with the plot line.
Yeah.
I'm just not sure how invested I am. Like, I am vaguely curious about how things will go from here, because the end, it definitely ended on a cliffhanger.
Oh, it ends on a wild note. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, it's fine. It's not bad, but it's not like it didn't hook me right away either. So
Right.
yeah. Yeah, and there was a Universal logo at the very beginning, and that caught me by surprise.
There sure was. I thought I was watching a movie.
Yeah.
I don't really have anything else to say about it. It was all right. Like,
yeah, it was fine.
better than expected for a mobile game, but still not good.
Yeah.
It's a little bit wild because it basically ends on this dude killing a man for the first time in his life, and you can see that in his eyes. But other than that,
yeah.
I don't suspect that the rest of the show is going to be all that amazing.
I'm tempted to agree.
Mobile
it
game
could surprise you, but
adaptations.
yeah. Who knows?
There's some mobile games I would watch an adaptation for, but for the most part, they're not very good. Like, here's the thing: is like I think the only good mobile game adaptation thus far has been Princess Connect.
Yeah,
I can't think of a better one because like the Granblue Fantasy adaptation kind of blows. It's unfortunate, but that's just the way that it is. But yeah. Shall we talk about? Okay. Shall we talk about the next two on this list are weird adaptations.
Yeah.
So
they sure are. Yeah. So let's talk about Assault Lily Bouquet. I have a lot of things to talk about.
Yes, Assault Lily Bouquet is the new Studio Shaft show about girls that defend, like schoolgirls that defend humanity from monsters, called the Huge, and they use big transforming weapons to do so.
Yeah. Apparently, you told me about this, is that it's based on a line of dolls?
Yes, it is based on a line of like Figma dolls, basically, right? Of like movable, or maybe not even movable, but they're like figurines that you buy and collect and do nothing else with.
Yeah, and so they made a whole anime out of it.
They sure did. There's a story there. I mean, God, nothing really is more Japanese than that, isn't it?
Yeah. All right. So the episode opens with this pretty like really well animated cutscene of this dark-haired girl fighting one of the monsters. And it's impressive. Like the monster is CG, but like the animation for the girl is good.
It's really good.
Yeah. It's well directed, and then the movements are well animated, and so on. And then it shifts to the perspective of a pink-haired girl, and immediately you draw parallels between Madoka and
Homura.
And anyway, yeah, and because it's a little pink-haired Genki girl and a mysterious, brooding, purple-haired girl. And you follow her. She's the main character. She's enrolling in this new school place. It's located in like a military zone, ? Yeah, she meets a bunch of other school girls along the way. And they end up having a conflict with both each other and a monster that they are assigned to go encounter. And they end up killing the monster, which was not, I don't think it was originally part of the plan. And when she comes back, she is regarded as a hero for helping to kill the monster. And overall, the fight scenes are probably the most impressive part of this show for me.
I would agree.
They're really, really well animated, and the reason why I'm like I have a lot to talk about with this show is because the way that they draw the girls themselves and the way that they like wrote everything is just very Japan. I don't know. Like the side of anime that we don't like, I guess. So if you were to ever just look at okay, all right, I will say this, all right, that sums it up for me, is that within the first 5 minutes, and I asked Soup to check the timestamp for when this happened, is within the first 5 minutes, there were 5 lingering shots of this pink girl's thighs in her high socks. That absolute territory that we are named after this podcast. Yeah, they make a strong point to emphasize her thighs within the first 5 minutes. And I guess that's fine. The problem is that later on you see more and more of these girls and you start noticing how strangely proportioned they are.
Yup.
As if they were based on figurines.
Yeah, so the problem is that they have really tiny waists and big poofy like triangular skirts, and for some reason their hips appear to at their maximum match the kind of like width of the skirt and not their hips.
Yes.
And so, or their waist, and so they
Their
have
waist,
this
yeah.
really weird thing where they look like they're supposed to at some point like their waists are too small for how large their hips are. There's
and
it's
you,
like to the point where it's visually jarring if you actually like pay attention. You can
right,
actually
exactly.
notice the like disconnect between where the leg should be and where it is.
Yes.
And you're like, oh
yes.
no, right? And it's like
right.
like the most egregious kind of a visual design on a female character, because it is not only, you know, she thick and absolute territory, it's also just like you've broken anatomy so bad that I don't even know where to begin with this, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's not as if it's the first example of it, because obviously it's not, nor is it the most egregious, but it is
it's
egregious enough that you just get distracted by the fact that it's not.
I think that the kind of disappointing thing is that otherwise the show looks pretty good, like especially when it's moving, it looks really
right.
Like, it looks so good.
Yeah, when it's moving, you don't notice these things.
And then they stand still, and you're like, oh no. And then you look at their character design, and you're like, oh no, right?
Yeah,
it's like, you know what it's like? It's like a worse version of watching Ruby, where you're like, I really like the fight scenes, but everything else I'm looking at is just hideous.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Sorry,
mm-hmm.
Ruby, but it's just, I mean, like. It's highly disappointing, because like the opening shots go and you're like, whoa, this is really cool. Like, look at the way that this is animated. I'm like, whoa, like there's like a rhythm to it. Like it's there's a clear sense of movement and weight, and it's like the sound design is good. And then then you see them stand still and you're like, oh god.
Yeah.
And it's also just like not written that well.
It's not. Yeah. It's not.
Yeah. This is like, you know, if you had nothing better to do and you just wanted to like flip your brain off and watch something and like only half pay attention to it when the fight scenes are on, absolutely go for it. Otherwise,
or
you
like,
might enjoy this more than I
right. Wait,
like,
maybe wait
if
until
you can get past.
Yeah, no, it's definitely a hard pass for me. I might be willing to watch a like fight scene compilation after the whole the whole series is
that was the
aired.
conclusion I came to.
Yeah,
this to me is like to me this is a soft pass to me, right?
Yeah,
where it's like I can't get over how the characters look, and so it's gonna be too distracting for me to continue watching unless I just watch a fight compilation on YouTube. But other people don't necessarily have the same issues. They might completely be able to ignore that.
They might be able to ignore
if
that.
That's you. This is a show for you.
Yeah, no, but even if I were to put aside the anatomy and whatnot, like obviously I've seen more offensive or more poorly drawn anime. The writing just doesn't carry it for me either. I'm not interested in the characters. I'm not interested in the setup of like the world and why the fate of the world is on these high school girls' shoulders. Like, yeah, like Ava has a similar premise of the fate of the world is on teenagers' shoulders, but it doesn't feel purposeful. It just feels like we got to do something with these girls with weapons, you know.
Right.
So,
it's like we gave high schoolers weapons. How do we justify that?
yeah.
Not how does we as Hideaki Anno, as we collectively as Hideaki Anno, the being known as Hideaki Anno, create a show about like the absolutely traumatic experience of growing up in society.
Yeah, and not every show needs to have like a huge world-changing whatever message, and that's fine. This is obviously meant to be, I hope, a very light watch where, like you said, you just turn your brain off and you watch it. It's just not something that I want to watch.
Sure.
Yeah.
All right. So that's gonna be a collective pass from
Yeah.
us, the collective Hideaki Anno. And let's talk about Dragon Quest Dai no Daibouken.
Yeah, Dragon Quest has an anime.
This is based on a 90s manga.
Yeah.
Or a 90s manga, like a spin-off manga of Dragon Quest about a boy that grows up on the island where all the monsters live. And it's cute. It's like
it is very
Dragon
cute.
Quest and Pokemon, and operates off of like very 90s sensibilities.
Yes.
And that's about it, really. Like it is those two things and really nothing more.
Yeah, it is extremely straightforward. The story is very simple, like obviously, you know, JRPG-esque. But it's not like it knows what it wants to do and it does it, and I'm not mad at that because it's entertaining, you know, it's not it obviously has a really specific audience of like, you know, like a younger audience or an older audience that is nostalgic for Dragon Quest.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
It's definitely still like kid stuff.
Yes, 100%. So if you wanted to just like have like watch this with your kid or whatever, that is entirely it's entirely fine. It's not it doesn't have any questionable content to me in the first episode. So
yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. Like
the
demographic that is meant to enjoy Dragon Quest is meant to enjoy this. And yeah, I mean, it's very straightforward. I mean, probably not something that we're going to keep watching, but it was very, very nice to watch an episode of it.
Yes. Okay, so next we watched Taisou Zamurai.
Taisou Zamurai.
Taisou Zamurai. Let's get this out of the way first. It does use CG for gymnastic scenes. We understand why, and it's not good CG, but it is what they had to use.
Aggressively mediocre, if not bad.
Yeah. It reminds me of the CG that they had to use for Inuyashiki. It's like, you know exactly why they made a CG old man with a giant engine coming out of his body, but it's not great CG either. And so you just kind of have to live with that.
It depends. For me, whether or not the CG is justified depends kind of on how the rest of the show plays out.
Yes.
Because it's about, ostensibly, it's about this guy who should have retired from gymnastics deciding to give it one more go. So to me, the kind of important thing is the gymnastics the central element of it to the point where it being CG will distract from that. Because I think, obviously, like, yeah, you know, sometimes you just have to do it, right? I mean, and it's gymnastics too. It's not remotely an easy thing to animate. But also, like, if your show is about gymnastics, you should at least animate some scenes about gymnastics.
Yeah.
The question is whether the focus is on that or on more of the kind of emotional weight and impact surrounding gymnastics. Because if it's more about that, then I think it's more excusable.
Yeah, it seems to be leaning in that direction. I would also, I'm on that side too, where I hope that at least for important scenes, they'll animate it themselves. Because otherwise the animation is good. Like the character animation, like from moment to moment as they're talking and whatnot, is fine. But yeah, I understand why they, for simpler gymnastic routines, they don't want to animate a character making like a 360-degree rotation around a bar. You know, that's very hard to do in with hand animation, and then so it's just easier to do it with CG. I just like the reason why I'm not offended with them completely ruling out the CG is because then we get something like Yuri on Ice, which I don't know if they ended up reworking it for like a DVD or Blu-ray release, but within the series, there were moments where you could literally watch a cutout PNG of a character slide across the screen, and you understood why they did it, but it was extremely not pleasant to watch. And so it's either that or they go with CG. It's like neither of the solutions are good. You just have to choose one.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, and I get that. Like, obviously, every project has its sort of management issues.
Yeah.
Like if it's not realistic to have to animate the gymnastics. I mean, even I will say though, even then, like if it's that much of a burden, then you don't have to show those scenes until they really matter, right?
Right. Yeah. It's tough. You kind of have to strike a balance of it is a gymnastics show. You got to show gymnastics, but how much of it should you show?
Right.
Yeah. Either way, I think they're doing their best to handle it.
I think so.
Yeah.
And like everything else is looking to be pretty promising, right? Like, I think we're gonna watch a couple more episodes of this at the very least. But it like appears to take a very kind of mature approach to this kind of story, where it's like this guy who basically is basically washed up, right? Like he looked very promising in his younger years, but is getting a little bit on in years in a sport where it is very important to be young and limber.
Yes.
And he is about to retire, but chooses not to because he knows that his daughter is watching. And so you immediately have a very compelling and engaging way to start your story. And a very like kind of understandable and relatable one too, because like obviously people get old and they're going to get worse at certain things, and they're going to feel like their dreams are slipping away from them and that they're running out of time to accomplish them. And in the case of like competing in high level sports, that is often quite literally the case, where like your body just can't keep up at a certain point.
Right.
So that's definitely going to be interesting to watch, and I am intrigued.
I am too.
I would love to see the way that they take this, is how I'll put that.
Yeah, the character writing so far I like a lot. I like the dynamics between the father and the daughter, and then the grandma coming in, and then the random ninja guy. Yeah. Forget the bird. I hate the bird. I don't want anything to do with the bird, but everything else is great. Yeah.
We'll watch it.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Burn the Witch.
Yeah, it's the new Tite Kubo series, as
it's your
people
boy
probably know it
Tite
as.
Kubo back at it, the Krispy Kreme.
Yeah. It's the finally we don't have a child sequel, maybe.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's still technically set in the same world, which is fucking wild. But you know what, Tite Kubo, Godspeed.
All right, man. Yeah.
I'm always interested in any new Tite Kubo project. I'm pretty sure I read the one shot for Burn the Witch at some point, but I don't remember if I did actually.
Okay.
But the OVA that they did for it is absolutely gorgeous. Oh my.
Oh my.
Oh my. We haven't watched the whole 3 episodes. We've only watched the first one. But it was visually very, very impressive.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Like the way that they light up the environments is like so good,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's weird because they almost look like real places in a way.
Yeah.
Like, but you're obviously looking at animation, and it's not photorealistic animation. It's just animation that looks so good. You're like, oh, this is real.
Yeah.
Right. Like everything I've ever talked about where like things feel like they have a sense of place is like magnified, just like
right. Yeah, definitely.
The environment design is absolutely top notch. Like,
yeah,
it's so good.
Yep.
And
you don't feel like
you...
they cut corners essentially. When you look at it.
Yeah, and they obviously didn't, right? Because it's only a 3 episode OVA, which is like why it's a little bittersweet. You're like, oh, I want so much more of this. But if we got more of this, it probably wouldn't look like this. Oh.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. I mean, if we could just get like a serialized Burn the Witch and like it just came out in like 3 episode OVAs every like 2 seasons or so, I would be perfectly fine with
That's
that,
fine. I don't mind.
I wouldn't mind if you just made it into just nothing but a series of movies.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously that doesn't gel so well with the nature of a serialized manga, but still, like it looks so good that I'm just like I'm blown away at how good the environments look. The animation is good too, obviously, of the characters. But like it has that like when you watch an anime movie version of a television show you've been watching and everything just feels so much like more grounded and big and like impactful, where like you see a dragon crush through like the buildings and you're like, whoa. Right? It's like when you watch like a Pokemon movie for the first time and you're like, oh my god, the animation is so good.
This is Pokemon.
Because they put so much time. It's not a serialized weekly television show. It looks so good.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, I'm quite happy that he got to start his new series and that they made a really good looking animation out of it.
I like it. Is Burn the Witch serialized?
Is it?
Oh, I don't
sorry,
know.
I might have misspoken.
I don't know if he ever did more than a one shot. I don't know what Tite Kubo is up to nowadays. Probably just gliding off of Bleach money, to be honest.
I mean, he can do whatever he wants.
Yeah, that's true. Tite Kubo reminds me a lot of the guy who created the Yakuza series. They seem both kind of like of a similar sort. Like they're both dudes that just like do whatever the hell they want, and they're like, I made this because I thought it'd be really, really cool.
It is indeed a serialized show. It just started as a serialized manga. It started as a one shot.
Oh, very nice. Cool. I might go back and read it then. I will say I really missed Tite Kubo. like, now I am generally of the opinion like still to this day that I don't think Tite Kubo is very good at long form serialized content. I think Bleach really suffered from the fact that it just kind of kept going for like a bajillion years, because having read some of his one shots, like I used to own all 4 volumes of Zombie Powder, and Zombie Powder is fucking great. Yeah,
Zombie Powder.
And Burn the Witch equally is very cool. Like I love Tite Kubo because like there's very few authors of the same breed as Tite Kubo. Because like in terms of like manga, like it is kind of a medium that is known for having these like bombastic, crazy things happening. But like of all of them, Tite Kubo always felt like the person who was the most willing to be like, fuck it, let's go, turn it up to 11.
100%. Yeah.
Right? He's like, I put this character in the show or in the manga because he's cool. He looks really cool, and his ability is fuck you, sword. And you're like, you know what, Tite Kubo?
Yeah,
that's really cool.
That is
and
cool.
You're like, what if I made him fight the other sword guy? And you're like, make him fight the other sword guy. Take my money.
Take my money. Yeah, I agree that he definitely does his own thing unabashedly, aside from when he has to drag a series through the ground.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm glad he made his Bleach money and now he can do his own thing.
Yeah. I mean, really, I hope that he's like learned some lessons from Bleach. That will carry over into Burn the Witch to make it a much stronger, long form series. If it is one, obviously, like Zombie Powder was only like 4 volumes, so ultimately it wasn't actually that long, and it just got axed basically. So who knows, right? But I would absolutely love to see if we continue with this one, because like I had a great time watching the first episode of this. Like it was so much fun watching this episode, right?
Yeah.
Like there's all this wild stuff happening. There's a secret society, which is like, you know, Kubo's trademark at this point. And there's like a secret society that like lives underneath the normal one, and it's like that's just Kubo's trademark at this point. Yeah, I mean, it has so much energy to it, right? It really feels like when you first started watching Bleach, and you're like, whoa, there's like cool stuff happening,
right?
Like we're still in that nice honeymoon period where like everything is super cool. And hey, if Bleach is anything to go by, at least the first arc will like the first major arc will be really good.
Yeah.
We just have to hope he keeps sticking the landing after that.
Maybe just like have the one arc and then that's it.
I mean, maybe honestly, like, and this kind of has to do with that. Like, sometimes you should just let something die thing. Sometimes the story's done. Sometimes you can just be done with the story. You know?
Yeah.
It's okay to be done with the story.
I hope people, or at least if Tite Kubo goes this route, I hope that he is just able to end it whenever he wants to end it. You know, and not.
I just hope he has some fun with it. Honestly, like, I mean. He said that he ended Bleach the way he wanted to end it, and I'm willing to believe him when he says that. But it just kind of feels like by the end of Bleach, he wasn't having any fun writing it. Which is, like,
that's fair.
Probably. So I would absolutely love it if nothing else. Burn the Witch is like just like a pure passion project where like he just goes for it and is like, this I think is cool. I'm gonna put it in. This I think is really cool. I'm gonna put it in. That's why every time you watch like a Kubo, or every time you like read a Kubo series, it's always like magic art number 44, mind blast, right? Because he like the idea of like a number of techniques that have been like taught and mastered is like cool, and you're like, whoa, there's like at least 44 techniques. That's so neat.
Oh, the techniques.
And then, you know, he just drops it for something else halfway through, where it's just like, who needs the 44 techniques when you got Bankai? And Bankai Reborn, Electric Boogaloo.
I think what makes me more optimistic about this serialization too is apparently he is releasing it in seasons. So
that's
the first
very
season,
interesting.
Yeah. It was a 4-chapter first season in August and September. And so then apparently he's announced a second season that's going to be published later.
That's really interesting. I'm really into that. I like that for various reasons.
Yes.
I mean, one, obviously, because it lets him have some time to think about what the fuck he's doing, right?
Yes.
And two,
yes.
if this is a thing that catches on, it would be, I think, a much healthier way for people to write manga. Because is, people just kind of go until they explode.
The weekly release schedule for these manga is absolute insanity. Yeah.
It's kind of wild, right? And it's like really, when you think about it at its core, it's a very hardcore Japanese salaryman mentality to like, continue doing this, right?
Yeah.
Because like I feel like most other places, they don't really make content creators do anything even close to this. I mean, like, obviously manga creators are more akin to like self-employed like freelancers than actual employees, right? So like obviously there's a level of that where like, I mean, there's definitely people on like YouTube who do this, where they just kind of work themselves into the ground, right? But like The fact that Oda has just been making One Piece forever and he just has no intention of stopping is like so wild.
He is
It's
the
like
outlier, and yet he somehow has set the standard, and that's
he's such an outlier.
Yeah.
Because like everybody else is like Akira Toriyama is like, I fucking hated that shit. I hate it.
Yeah.
I did it for like 25 years. I'm out.
There are so many authors who like people try to emulate that, right? They try to do that because that's just the way that things are, but it burns them out so quickly. Like
yeah. And I would much rather people follow a seasonal release or we'll just hiatus and do it whenever the fuck we want to release, like the like Hunter
like Togashi. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, like Togashi and Hunter or Berserk. Just like I'll get to it when I get to it. Like I wish that all content could be created like that. Do you know what I mean?
Really? You are asking me to burn for another 2 years.
I'm sorry. I am.
No, I 100% agree that the creators' health and also the way that they can service the series is far more important than a weekly release schedule.
Right, and it's like it wouldn't take much more than that, right? It wouldn't take much less than that to keep people vaguely satisfied. Like there are people that do monthly releases, and they're, obviously still kind of under very similar restraints because like monthly releases have much larger page expectations. But like if we could get like more manga done in a less timely fashion, for the sake of the people who write it, like I would completely be on board. Like this is the whole thing about like video games and crunch recently, right? Where like the whole scandal about like, well, Cyberpunk 2077 first was like, well, you see, we always do crunch. That's just how we operate as a company, and we're like, the crunch is not that bad. But we're doing it so we don't have to delay the game, and the game has already been delayed like 3 times. Like honestly, at a certain point, you should just make sure that like your game comes out at a reasonable time frame instead of making your developers work super fuck overtime, right?
Yeah.
It's definitely not healthy, and even if you're being paid for it, like it's still not good for the people doing it.
Yeah, I completely understand because in the sense of it is extremely difficult to predict how long a creative endeavor is going to take. Like that side of it, I 100% understand. I have a hard time setting my own like timelines like at work at the animation studio I work at, saying like, okay, this thing that I'm about to do is about to take this amount of time. It changes from project to project, and so I get that is just a thing. But you should be setting, like, when you set your deadlines in the case of like these big releases and whatnot, yes, you're beholden to investors, but you have to think about what's more important, your investors or your employees, and in that case, set the deadline accordingly, right?
Yeah.
So
and it's like,
I understand it's a huge like dynamic that you have to play so that people get paid, but yeah.
It's also like, and this is one of those things where it doesn't necessarily have to even be this way. You can crunch your developers less if you hire more of them. But the thing is that people just keep firing their developers after a big release, right? Like Blizzard released like 1,200 employees like last year or something, and now they're hiring 2,000 for whatever new project they're coming with, and it's like, maybe you could just keep your workers, like, just a thought, you know? But yeah, I mean, I'm very interested in the idea of seasonal manga releases. That sounds really cool to me.
That does sound cool to me too, and maybe it'll be a thing that becomes more popular later on. I know in webtoons it's caught on for sure. Like, there are authors who will they'll release for a certain amount of time. They'll keep up a release schedule, and then they'll take a break so that they can have a break and plan out the next season. And that's so if they do that for like serialized manga too, I think that'll hopefully save some sanity and fatigue and health.
We're just too obsessed with the idea of getting content like
all
as
the
fast
time
as humanly possible. Right? And the thing is, it's like even with a big magazine, if you have authors who take breaks, it means that you have more opportunities to try
Yep.
new works, right?
Yep.
It means there's more space overall for people to introduce things that other
Right.
people might be interested in, right?
Exactly. Like we simultaneously want content all the time from our favorite authors, and yet we talk about how we don't ever have time to watch or read anything.
Right, exactly. There's like too much stuff to do already.
Yes, exactly.
You know?
Yeah.
I haven't even started the new season of
Yeah.
Haikyuu yet.
Just let people take breaks when they need to take a break, man. Don't push them into the brink of, I don't know, death or whatever, just for your content.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to watching the other 2 episodes of this.
Yeah.
We didn't watch the other 2 because we were watching other stuff.
Yeah, we had to
But
watch the rest of the first
we had to watch
episodes
the rest of this
this.
season, but we
Yeah.
will get back to it. It might be the first
Yeah.
thing we watch, actually. It probably will be.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway.
All right. Yeah.
That's Burn the Wish. Highly looking forward to it. I'm very excited to come back to you at the end of the season with my thoughts on it because first episode, very impressive.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, next, Grand Blues, which is the animation adaptation of the Grand Blue Fantasy 4-panel gag manga. I'm gonna keep making you watch this. It's weird.
Why?
And I'm not going to explain anything.
Why?
All right, next.
Why do I have to watch it?
Next to me.
I hate you.
Let's talk about Akudama Drive.
All right. Let's talk about Akudama Drive. It's wild. I guess I might have forgotten or I didn't know that it was made by the Danganronpa guy. It is, and it shows.
Yes, this is the most Danganronpa a show can be without being Danganronpa.
Yeah, like I was watching it, I was like, this looks a lot like Danganronpa, and then by the time that they introduced the setup at the end, I was like, this is just like Danganronpa.
This is Danganronpa.
Yeah. Okay.
It's
yeah.
I'd like to hear how you feel about it because I have my thoughts for sure.
Okay. All right. So all right. I'll talk about what happens in the first episode just to set it up. It takes place in this futuristic kind of cyberpunk city. There are several characters you need to keep up with that are introduced as Akudama, and you get the sense that they are very hardcore criminals because their sentences are centuries long, like 400 years, 900 years, so on and so forth. And they each are given a sort of like a summons to do something related to this other Akudama, to like either rescue him or give something to him. And each of these Akudama have names that they're given, like courier, hacker, doctor, that indicate what kind of crimes and abilities that crimes that they've committed and abilities that they have. So in the midst of this all, there's this, I guess, ordinary little girl who just wants to return some change that she was given by one of the Akudama. And by the end of it, they all encounter each other at their target's location, and they're all about to fight each other, but then they decide that they're just going to compete with each other to get to their target so that they can get paid for each of their individual missions. And then a huge fight breaks out with the police force, military, and by the end of it, the courier gives the thing that he was supposed to deliver to the target, and it turns out that it's a briefcase full of collars that he magically kind of uses his serial killer powers to put on everyone without them noticing, and the collars will blow your head off, and that's how the episode ends. And the girl gets one too because she pretends to be an Akudama in order to live, so that they won't kill her for being a bystander. Yeah, it's a whole lot. I think the aesthetic is interesting. It is a bit much at times, but it's not like terrible. The setting is fairly interesting. It jumps the shark when my man motorcycles up and down freaking buildings with like
Yeah.
like he shoots out these cables that latch onto the sides of buildings that help him literally Spider-Man across the city on a motorcycle. And then during the fight, he also flies with his motorcycle up in the air and shoots missiles out of it that eliminate this giant tank mecha monster thing that was about to kill them all. And yeah, I don't know what to think of this show. It's a whole lot. If you thought Danganronpa was a lot, this series starts off with an extreme amount of a lot. Like, yeah, I guess because it's suddenly now a killing game, I have to be interested in how it develops. But I think every single character, aside from the little girl, is a pretentious prick. And they're kind of meant to be. Like, they're all criminals, I guess. But they're all kind of, like, trying to out-edge each other at one point when they're all meeting each other. They're like, well, I can do this. Well, I can blow you up with this. Well, I can beat your face in with this. And then it's like, stop it, you children. Yeah, I don't know, man. This anime was really so much to take in. And it was only one episode.
Yeah. It's very Danganronpa for sure.
Yeah,
you have a bunch of people who are very competent and very like highly competent and specialized in one thing, and they all have to do something, which I guess is a train heist. I think they're doing a train heist.
Really?
I think that's the setup.
I was turned around so many times during this episode that I lost the plot several times.
And it's I have to say, like, the trailer of this didn't look very good, but then when you get into the first episode, it's, like, way different, and there's, like, a lot happening, and it's not all bad, and... Yeah,
it's not poorly animated
like,
to me.
It has a weird art style to it. Like, it feels like it's, like, it feels like there's, like, a CG skeleton running, like, underneath the whole show.
Yes.
Like, it's, like, there's a very, like, jarring sense of three-dimensional space to it. And it's absolutely over the top, right?
Yeah.
Like, there's a dude that just punches robots, and there's another dude that will refuse to leave his motorcycle and was willing to die for his motorcycle.
Yeah, he got stuck in the debris with his motorcycle, and he just refused to leave it. And so the little girl had to distract the giant robot so that he would have time to free himself.
Right.
But the thing about that scene is it doesn't even make sense, because when he initially got thrown back from the monster, there was no debris in the area that he got thrown. But then you cut, and later on, and he's stuck in a bunch of metal bars. It's like, how did this even happen?
Yeah, and instead of choosing to leave, he just
sits there. Yeah, and so she has to distract the robot long enough for him to free himself, and then he shoots the giant missiles at the robot. And it's like, you could have just done this. Like, I don't know.
Yeah. The premise of it is very interesting, because all of episode 1 is basically set up for the, like, real plot, and it sets up the main character, who is just a regular civilian, as the master of all deception, and we're going to see how long that lasts and if it happens. And I'm curious to see it. It has a very, like, there's a very tense aspect to it, right? Because she's been dragged into this against her will, and everybody believes that she's on the same caliber of super villain that they are. Which
no. To me, it is against her will, *, because she is so intent on returning this 500 yen coin to this man that she got arrested for it. She could have paid for her meal with this yen because the place only took cash, but instead she just decided that she would just get arrested instead of paying with it because she was given it by the courier guy. And so she's at the police station when all the Akudama stuff happens, and then she ends up running out of there and chasing after the courier guy, and she still wants to give him the coin back. And it's just like, what are your priorities? Like, please tell me that they explain this later on or at some point, that why she's so intent on returning this to him.
I don't know. Anyway, we'll probably be watching a couple more episodes of this. We need to figure out what's happening here.
It barely doesn't. It actually just doesn't make any sense.
There are things that make less sense this season, to be fair. Anyway,
no.
Shall we talk about Haikyuu?
I don't know about that. All right, Haikyuu is continuing. Considering that COVID happened and they weren't able to work on it, they did their best, and it is really hype. The top seasons in general have stuck more closely to I guess like the manga style, and so that's been interesting to watch. The animation is still really good. There's one episode in this season that looks like it took a pretty bad hit. You notice it, right? It was very like low budget. But then it looks like they were able to pick it back up and put it together for like the rest of the show, hopefully. So, it's more of the boys, man. I love it. They have their good moments, and it doesn't stop being exciting and fun to watch.
Yep. I haven't not started it yet, so
yeah.
I have absolutely no thoughts whatsoever, but I'm sure it'll be good. It's Haikyuu.
Yes.
I have almost finished the manga for Haikyuu, but then I caught up and I just didn't look at it for a couple weeks. It's like over now, pretty sure.
Yeah, it's over.
Pretty sure it's finished. It gets really wild really fast. And I'm not gonna spoil why, but it does. Anyway, Haikyuu, we will be watching that for sure. We have not started Golden Kamuy 3rd season, but we will watch it because we love Golden Kamuy. It's very weird and very wild and very adventurous. There's a 3rd season of Osomatsu-san that came out or is coming out, and I have not watched the 2nd season, so
I did, so I gotta watch the 3rd one because I like Osomatsu-san.
I'll probably go back and watch it at some point, but right now I'm just kind of busy, so Shall we wrap up, because we've been here for so
Oh my god, this might be our longest episode yet.
I think it might be. I think one of our episodes hit 3 hours, though.
Oh.
And this one hasn't quite.
Okay.
I'd have to check. But anyway, let's. Why don't we wrap up so we're not here any longer? Because my voice is starting to hurt.
Okay.
We've been talking so long.
Yeah. So I guess what will you be up to? Where can we find you?
Find me all places at Literal Soup. I've been streaming from 12 a.m. to 5 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, which is what I like gently refer to as DGen hours. But yeah, I basically run a red eye stream. It's very weird. But that's just when I'm up, so I guess that's when I'll do the stream. We've been playing Yakuza Kiwami, and we finished it. So if you want to watch any of the VODs for that, they're up on my YouTube channel that I will of course link. And I will probably be starting Yakuza 0. Or I may have started by the time this episode comes out. It's unclear. Actually, I probably will have started, because I think this episode is going to come out a week and a bit from now. We are recording on the night of the 7th of November. Just to tell you all of our secrets, but I don't think this episode's gonna come out tomorrow. This episode is way too long to edit in one night.
It's very long.
So I will probably have started streaming Yakuza 0, and you can check that out at my Twitch, twitch.tv/literalsoup. That's all I'm up to. How about you, Renu?
You can find me on Twitter and Tumblr and Twitch at SwanDrawn. You can find me on Instagram at swan.drawn. I am busy working on commissions. I have a lot lined up to do this month, so I will be working through that. I'm working on one of them on my Twitch stream, so if you want to check that out, I stream every Friday evening. And yeah.
Very cool.
Yep.
And very nice. All right. Our
Very nice.
opening is by Scott 2 Network, and our ending is by Takuma Kara. And
Mhm.
the patrons we are thanking this week
Woo!
are Evan, Frostfall, Cheru, Magpie Mirror Test, Sean, Claire, and Dylan. Thank you so much.
Yay,
so
thank
much for your
you.
support. We continue to appreciate it always,
Yeah.
especially in these dark and trying times. For once in 4 years, we have seen a glimmer of hope that maybe something will happen. At the very least, maybe our federal government will no longer try to sabotage everything that we are trying to do in regards to COVID safety. And maybe it will be less of a problem in our country if we actually deal with it instead of closing our eyes and burying our heads in the sand and saying, la 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 la, you can't get me, I'm immune to COVID. Anyway. Thank you so much for listening. It has been an absolute wild ride through this year, and we are rapidly approaching the end of it, and that is actually terrifying because it feels like this year was both an eternity and an instant, and I don't know how to feel about that.
Yeah.
You know, it's, time is weird, time is fake. The podcast is forever.
What? All right, man. Let's get. See you next time.
さようなら。また明日ね。